Welcome to the Game Informer Show, a weekly video game podcast releasing every Thursday. I am your host, Alex Stadnick, and unfortunately, my co-host, Alex Van Aken, is not with us today. He's dealing with some family stuff, and if he could use all the good vibes that he can get, so send some love to Alex Van Aken. But join us each week as we bring you the latest news, reviews, and big man swag your eyes and ears can handle. I missed part of the rigmarole, but that's okay. It's early. I'm still waking up. So we have a very special episode for you today. It's always special when we have Jill Grote and Marcus Stewart on the pod. Hello, Jill. How are you?
Good. And you're like, it's early. This man is 2 hours ahead of me.
Right? Yeah. I stayed up too late watching the Wolves game last night, so I'm a little sleepy boy. So, and then Marcus, who it's probably like almost noon there at this point, right?
Yeah, the sun's actually setting here.
Yeah,
it's been a long day.
So you're good. But we have a very special guest today. We have the lead on Tunic, Andrew Shouldice. Hello, sir. How are you?
Hi there. I'm doing well, thank you.
Good. It is so good to have you. We've been communicating the last couple weeks, and obviously you've been busy with releasing a certain game, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a wild ride.
Yeah, and I'm excited to dig into it. So today is going to be a little different on the show, right? We're not going to do news today. We'll get to Evil Dead later in the show. But we're going to start things off just, breaking Tunic down with Andrew here. We're very lucky to have him. So we're just going to jump right in. So for those who don't know, Tunic is beautiful indie game, 7 years in the making, correct? 8 years?
Something Seven's like that. About right, yeah.
Yeah. Stars our new favorite little fox character as he goes around dungeon crawling, going on his adventure. And Andrew, I guess let's start with where it started for you. What got you into games?
What got me into games going all the way back then?
Yes.
Oh boy. I think, good question. So the Mattel Intellivision is a console that my parents or grandparents had, and that was probably the first video game I ever saw. Who knows? The first one that I really remember spending much time with was the NES with Super Mario Brothers and the like. But I still have a soft spot for those super old consoles.
Right. Nice. So then, at what point did that kind of lead to the inspiration to take what I presume was just a hobby into something that would define your career?
So I'd been making small games for a long time. The moment I realized my computer had something on it called QBasic, I got really excited because all these books that I got from the library, they were like, how to make your computer do things. Like I didn't think my computer could do that. And I realized, oh, wait, it has this. And from that point on, I was, tinkering around and making terrible little games and sort of fell off of it a little bit later in life, but then around university time started, messing around again. Like, oh, this is cool, and eventually got a job doing it. But I was just making some casual hidden object games, which is fun and cool, but it wasn't the sort of games that I grew up with. It wasn't this game centered around mystery and discovery. And so I decided to strike out on my own and make a video game. Being on my own didn't last especially long. I soon garnered some help to do some of the things that I can't do. But yeah, that was about 7 years ago.
Okay, right. How long into the process did it take for you to go, oh, I need some people?
0 seconds for a couple of things.
Yeah.
So audio, I like doing audio design. It's very fun, but it's really sort of like a tinkery hobby. So I knew that I needed help doing actual good audio design. And I have absolutely zero skill composing music. And so I knew that I needed to collaborate with some folks there. And so Power Up Audio, specifically Kevin Regami, who's the audio director on Tunic, came on fairly early, as did Terrence Lee and later Janice Kwan doing the soundtrack under the name Lifeformed. The point where I thought, oh boy, I'm in over my head, is when I started soliciting help for something like, business development And you can ask people in the industry for advice only so much before you realize, wow, there's just a lot about this that I don't understand. And so Felix Kramer and later Finji helped with sort of business development and eventually publishing and doing all those things that I did not even know that I was terrible at.
Right. Was there anyone specific in the industry you were talking to at the time before you were kind of working with Finji and the rest of the team?
Yeah, so Felix fairly early on, and a number of other folks that I reached out to early on, asking like, how do you make a video game? Like I think Brian Clark, I believe, was one person that I was reaching out to. Amir Rao later, and some other folks. Tom Happ, I believe, like a number of folks along the way. Just trying to garner wisdom and cram it into my brain and think, how do you do this properly?
Right.
But it turns out that the video game industry, especially, well, I can only speak to the sort of indie side of things, is full of people who are willing to help, which is really nice.
Yeah, I was always curious if there was a social network for indie, or like an underground indie like network, and it sounds like there's a little bit of help there, which is good. So, and Jill and Marcus, please, I don't mean to dominate, so if you want to jump in, be my guest.
I had the pleasure of meeting with several of the mentioned people for an earlier interview, and I will say that Power Up Audio's Kevin Rudgemy was one of the most secretive people I've ever talked to. It was literally every single conversation was, I can't speak about that. Is there anything you can think of, Andrew, that you can spill the beans on now that you couldn't beforehand?
Ooh.
Specifically that Kevin might have been talking about. So Kevin loves secrets as well. So I love secrets. Kevin loves secrets. That was one of the things that actually started the relationship between myself and Power Up Audio. Was I think we were introduced, not even to Kevin specifically, but to one of the other people at Power Up many years ago. And I thought, oh yeah, they seem to be into doing audio design, obviously, and secrets in games. This sounds neat. I'll send them a build. And the build contained, as does the final game, a mysterious secret language that is made up of these angular hexagonal glyphs. And I was astounded and delighted when I got a pitch video back from Power Up saying, yes, we would like to work on your video game. Here is a treatment that we've put together. And at the end of it, I, for the first time, was able to read a message written in these glyphs that I had not written.
Whoa.
Because Kevin, the mad lad, had just figured it out.
So is this a thing like with like George R. R. Martin and Dothraki? Like, do you know the language basically? Do you know what every glyph? Do you have a chart that like reads what every glyph is?
Well, wouldn't that be spilling the beans, especially for someone who has not yet played Tunic, available now on Xbox Game Pass?
Yeah.
But I will say that the community that we have on our Discord, the Finji Discord, has done a lot of very impressive work uncovering some of the secrets related to the language, and even some sort of double hidden secret stuff related to that would be a thing that, for instance, Kevin, hint, would be very secretive about.
I love it. Okay, so let's back up a bit, right? Your inspiration is clear, right? You grew up a Nintendo kid, and but like, take us back to like when Tunic started in your head. Like, what did this start as? What was kind of the inspiration? Let's take it back a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. So I like keeping physical notebooks. And so I have a stack of notebooks going back over the years. Yeah, there you go, right there. Was that one of the ones from the press kit, maybe?
Yeah. Got some nice language there if anybody can see that.
Oh, yes. That's Jill's showing off one of the notebooks there.
Oh, my mad
very
absolute,
jealous.
like my mad scribbles trying to figure everything out of like.
Oh, awesome. That is so heartwarming.
Like, can I send you my notes, like homework? Can you check it? Make sure it's correct.
We've actually seen that. People, exchanging, there's a bit of a tangent, but people on like social media or on the Discord, sharing notes with one another and helping and being sort of an extension of the puzzles in the game by being very cagey about the secrets that they provide and giving people just enough of a hint to get going. Anyway, it's very wonderful. So that's nice to see. Thank you. But I like the sort of keeping I don't know, the physicality of paper and the expressiveness of it, and also the literal paper trail means that I've got all this stack of notebooks from development, and I can go back and look at extremely early versions and see, like this idea like circled a bunch of times, and it's not, it's not stamina system, and it's not what if it was a fox, but it's this idea of mystery in games, and trying to, at the time I was desperately trying to articulate this very specific feeling and coming up for a word for it. And I never found the perfect word for it. Mystery is sort of the closest thing, I think, but it is that feeling of a world being full of things for you to find, sort of like, ripe for discovery. This feeling of there being secrets all over the place. And when you discover one, you suddenly realize that they could be all over the place. Who knows? This was here the whole time. Like that's a phrase that I keep coming back to, is this was here the whole time, or I didn't even know that was possible. Some of the reference points early on are things like the cape in A Link to the Past. There's a cape in Link to the Past. I don't think it's necessary. I don't even think it's particularly interesting. But the fact that it exists, and maybe someone who's beaten Link to the Past didn't know about it, is like, that's fascinating, right? To think, oh, this thing is a secret that I didn't even know about. Where is it? What does it do? It's out there in the world somewhere. And things like the wall jump in Super Metroid being a thing that is communicated to you extremely obliquely, but available to you from the very start. It suddenly makes you realize, wait, what else is being kept from me? I'm not just like, oh, okay, I've emptied out what this game has provided for me thus far. I'm up to date. Once you realize that these secret techniques exist, you think, wait, no, I'm not up to date. Maybe it's going to tell me something in the future that I could be doing now. I just don't know about. What further puzzles exist even. Anyway, so that all of those ideas were sort of the very abstract conceptual soup that this game would eventually sort of crystallize out of.
What's the trial and error process in creating those kind of mechanics, like you said, that are kind of hidden in plain sight? Like, is there a lot of like testing it either with players and wondering like, is this too frustrating or is this too obvious? Like, what's the balancing act there of like wanting to make it mysterious but not maybe overly opaque?
Yeah, it's tricky for sure. The routing in the game. There's some late game secrets that didn't really see a whole lot of. I don't want to say didn't see a whole lot of playtesting. Like QA went over them with a fine tooth comb a lot, and I talked to them a lot about their opinions of how obvious or inobvious certain things were. But you have a finite number of tries to get that right. Like if the team is small and it's very secret and you don't want to spill the beans for too many people, you got to be very careful about your iteration process on some of those late game secrets. But there are other things like, people not realizing that they can interact with certain objects in a particular way, or having certain architectural elements be confused for other ones, come out in playtesting and can be augmented by like, oh, let's make this shiny gold as opposed to just flat gray and draw the eye to it a little bit more. But you're right. It is a weird challenge because you are trying to get inside the head of every player and think, what are they likely to do and think? And in some ways, like I think about people writing a mystery novel, and it's just mind-boggling to me, because how do you lay all the facts out there but make sure that you're leading people down a garden path appropriately and pulling them back, and offering red herrings? Like all of that sounds immensely complicated, but in retrospect, I guess that's sort of what game design is in a certain way. It's trying to simultaneously gently author a player's experience so they have a good time and are pulled from mystery to mystery and make revelations appropriately, but also have a light enough touch that you are honestly not presenting cold hard facts at predetermined times. You're allowing them to explore at their own pace. So yeah, a lot of iteration and fretting, I guess, is the answer.
You talked about this a little, or you touched on it a little bit, but like, is it just terrible to like watch all of these people discussing and like theorizing what's going on and figuring out and knowing that they're going down the wrong path, or like that they're kind of getting it but not quite? Is it terrible to have to like sit there and not say anything and like, no, you should go this way? Or is it like just a lot of fun watching people engage in that way?
It is absolutely wonderful to watch people play a thing that you've made, for sure. That's and not just to watch them like make their way through the like hit all the checkboxes in the game, but just having a good time. That's really the most sort of warm fuzzy thing. But yes, as a designer, I feel like it is important to develop calluses around the instinct to come in and be like, just go to the left. Come on. You've gone to the right 8 times in a row now. Please go to the left.
Were you watching me play? Is that what it is? You calling me out?
But that is a skill to sort of, chill out, let it happen, especially with a game like this where it's about getting a little bit lost. It's about exploring. But yeah, you're right. It is a challenge, and I need to protect my own psyche sometimes by being careful about, the streams that I watch or whatever, to make sure that I'm not, damaging myself psychologically.
Just jumping into people's chats like, no, idiot, that's not what you do.
I have done that on occasion, and it's very fun. I mean, when doing playtesting, or not even official playtesting, but when the demo was available, people were streaming it, and that is just a preposterously good way to get feedback, because you can look over the shoulder of someone who does not even know they're sort of doing a playtest and see how they react, what they do, what their motivations are, what they notice, what they don't. It's fascinating. And more recently, now that the game is actually out, sometimes pop into chat and be like, oh, hey, do you want a hint? But I try to keep my mouth shut most of the time.
Okay,
you should write
the hint out in the Runic.
Yeah. We'll put it up on the site. Was there anything that came out of that that you can remember in particular where you're like, oh, I really need to change this, or this is something that's tripping people up a lot? Or was there anything in particular that you saw that you're just like, wow, I didn't expect anybody to think that? And
people are very good at finding secrets, both in the demo and the final game. That's for sure. It's the power of the internet is astounding when folks work together. And that's even just a small slice of what, I haven't been keeping track of every single community trying to solve every single puzzle or whatever, but the ones that I've seen are, kind of staggering. But as far as watching the demo goes, because that was the point at which it made sense to, adjust. And in addition to just adding to this general understanding of player motivation and getting a sense of, how they move throughout the spaces, which was super useful. Like difficulty balancing was something that was useful there, like figuring out, this is meant to be a stiff challenge, but maybe it's just a little bit too much. This enemy could be like rotated 90 degrees and it makes the area a lot easier, basically. Or there was one sort of Easter eggy challenge where if you went off the beaten path, you would find a monster that was just like way, way, way too hard. It was sort of there as a wink and a nod to people who had played a much earlier show floor demo where there was like some hard enemies and some treasure there. And what was surprising was that once people discovered that was there, it was just like, oh, everything else has been backburnered. My sole goal now is to fight this skeleton over and over and over. Just maybe something that I've learned. If I ever do a demo again, I'll make sure that those sort of, I recognize that a cheeky, haha, here's a really hard enemy will be met with determination from certain players.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's interesting you bring up difficulty, right? Because I do think, playing that, seeing it, right, you kind of you have a certain expectation when you just see Tunic, right? But then when you play it, it does feel like it has some more of the difficult Zelda, right? The Dark Souls, like, you know, when did that kind of shift, or was that always like the thought process behind, you know, the challenge of it? Because you can't just hack and slash in this game, right? You have to roll, you have to be conscious of, you know, the enemies that you're fighting. Obviously there's some great accessibility stuff that you put in, but like, talk about the challenge and the difficulty of the game and why that was important to you.
Sure. So yeah, I think from very early on, the idea of it should be challenging. There should be scary monsters out there was baked right into the design. I like that in games. I like being presented with something that makes me feel like I'm just little and this is not meant for me. This is big kid stuff. You should go back home. And then conquering that, whether it's by sheer courage or by doing something clever or using a resource that I was saving up for a rainy day and getting past it, suddenly you're in uncharted territory, right? You've transgressed somehow. You're on, you know, the big kid's side of the playground. What am I doing here? What am I was never supposed to be here. Like that sort of feeling is, I mean, artificial, right? It's a video game. You were meant to, the challenge was there for you to accomplish. You're supposed to go here. You're supposed to whatever. Capra Demon is not actually an impossible wall, but when you're there, you're like, oh gosh, wow, I'm here now. Okay, I wasn't prepared for this, and that's exciting. And that's, I think, why I enjoy those sorts of challenges. If the one side of it is, say, the puzzly sort of secrets about the world sort of thing, that feeling of, oh, there's this mysterious glyph language. There are these, or, you know, in Souls games, item descriptions of things that I just don't understand. What is this? That's mysterious and cool. What's beyond that door? Like that is the puzzle side of things, right? I slipped behind a corner and I'm in an area that I was not ready for. Wow, cool. That's one side of it. This sort of ambivalence of the world, and combat can also provide that in the same way that I talked about. You know, I accidentally was able to get past this monster. Wow. Okay, cool. What now? All those things, I think, hopefully contribute to this feeling of true discovery. That's sort of the hope, at least.
On discovery, can you talk about the manual? Because that's, at least for me, maybe personally, my favorite element of the game. Can you talk about like how that came to be? How, like, as that you're being your central resource, and like were there any other approaches you took in terms of trying to like nudge players a certain way, or was it always going to be that manual, and how that just came together?
Yeah, there was a moment when I realized, oh, of course, instruction manual, because I've always enjoyed those. You know, it's a very precious memory for me to, you know, like be leafing through these things, and it's sort of the pure version of that. This is not meant for me, because if you're reading the instruction manual, for me at least, it was because someone else was playing the video game, right? Or the video game was too hard for me, but I still want to just sort of explore that world somehow, you know. Next door neighbor had a Game Boy. They were playing Metroid 2. Game Boy, least bottom tier, looking over shoulder play experience.
Right.
So what are you going to do? You're going to read the manual, and just like so many orbs. It was probably the first time I was introduced to the concept of powerful orbs in a video game, and these scary monsters, and it's all this black and red, and you know, your imagination can run wild. So I hold, you know, those old manuals. They're very precious to me, and they were, especially for, you know, like the Zelda 1 era, they were part of the game design. You couldn't communicate a lot in the game. The story needed to be communicated in the manual, because you've only got so many bits on your cartridge and you're using up a lot to store text. So you have to, you know, just like print it on a page, and that's where you put all your maps and descriptions of enemies and hints and tricks and stuff. It's like the game, part of the game design exists in the manual. And that's cool. And we've sort of lost that. And people talk about like, you know, manuals, it's so nice to have a physical object, but that part of the game design existing in the manual itself is cool. And it's not something you see a lot of today. Yeah. And yeah, the moment I realized like, this is just, of course this is how this game is going to go, is when I realized, well, you've got story and maps and hints and tricks and like a bestiary that lists all the monsters and how to deal with them, and a memo section at the back. Like it started to that was an important moment in the development of the game and came quite early on, I think.
How did you how was it developing the little notes that are written in there? 'Cause to me it almost feels like an extra character in the game is whoever scribbled all those little notes. Like consciously, how do you come up with keeping the notes like in character, so to speak, of okay, this feels like the way this person would maybe denote a thing. And again, kind of to my old question of like, oh, this note is too vague or is this too obvious? Like how many times have we have to rewrite a handwritten note in a way that feels authentic and not too video gamey? Like what is that like?
Yeah, it's tricky. It's first of all, it needs to be done on actual paper. You can't Photoshop in like the very best Photoshop brush is not going to have all the nuance of a crappy ballpoint or whatever. Which I think I've got. This is the blue pen from the game. It's a jet stream.
Oh,
for
there
the
it is.
Ooh, wow.
It's the pen of God, basically.
It's grandiose. Yeah, so making sure that they look authentic, and I don't know, I feel like an approach to puzzle design, which I do not want to speak authoritatively on because I have not tried all the different approaches to puzzle design, but one that I like that was explored in this game a little bit is to put clues just beneath the surface, as opposed to burying them super, super, super deep and have it all concentrated in one spot. Just sprinkle lots and lots of clues all over the place. And the way that can be done in the context of like an instruction manual is just have the notes be fairly honest, if that makes sense. Like here, this is not someone trying to keep something from you. This is someone trying to keep notes about the thing that they're doing, right? It's, if you're flipping through your notebook and you're like, oh, but I forget what I was thinking about here. What does this mean? It's not a very useful note. So, sometimes I'll do that. I'll look at my notes like, what was I thinking? And it's sort of a fun puzzle to suss out what was going on there. So trying to balance that line between this is a tool, whether it's the, doodles or notes in the manual or the manual itself, they exist as tools to communicate something. Their original intent, ostensibly, was to tell you something or to help somehow. And that can be taken a step back by putting it in a strange language or having the scrawl be a little bit hard to read. And now suddenly it feels like you're an archaeologist of some kind. You're actually trying to discover something. Nobody's trying to keep anything from you. It's just that you don't know yet.
Yeah.
And I think that's cool. Makes it feel maybe a little bit more authentic than, I don't know, something that is more obviously a puzzle or a riddle or whatever.
Yeah. Is that why, at least in my mind, because there are times when I'll look at a note or whatever and I'm like, why wouldn't this person just write this out? Like, why did you draw this weird, like just write what it is? Because that's maybe what I would do but then keeping in mind, like, well, this, like, yes, this is for me, but it also isn't. Like, this is more like, hey, this is my buddies and this made sense to him. And I'm just like, I'm along for the ride based on what they had. And in that sense, like, that's why it feels like it's another character in the game. It's like, I'm just using this dude's.
Yeah, totally.
He's like, I guess he's smarter than I am because he wrote this in a weird way that only he would get. Where I would have just written out the sentence, like, here's what this is, dummy.
Yeah. There were some practical concerns to that. Like we can localize printed text, but the game's in 30 languages. So if I had to stop myself from writing out like secrets here in just plain English, because then I'd need to figure out how to write it in, all kinds of different languages.
Yeah. I'm curious. Tunic is such a breath of fresh air in that I feel like we are in a world where a lot of games, especially in the AAA space, are content on being maybe like the more theme park ride, right? Maybe a more guided experience. And you come out with this game that says, no, like that's not what games are to me. Like, what do you think about the state of game state and why is that sense of discovery so important to you?
Yeah. I think you calling it a roller coaster or a theme park, I think is accurate. Because it is literally on rails in a lot of cases, but also people like roller coasters. theme parks are fun.
They're great. Yeah.
Yeah. And so this isn't a value judgment on those sorts of things, but going to a theme park or a roller coaster and saying, here is a fun time. Please have fun time now. Fun time being had, fun time over. Is like, that's all well and good. Like, you had a good time. You ate the piece of cake. But okay, tonight we're going to an abandoned roller coaster theme park. It's going to be dangerous. Some of the rides are broken. Some of them might kill us. But I hear there's a secret there. And suddenly it's different, right? It's like there's no one looking over your shoulder being like, this person is having the maximum amount of fun. You're finding your own fun, and you are truly discovering things. And like I mentioned before, you're not the art. There's a layer of artifice over everything. It's a video game made by human beings, and so there is intention behind everything. But by not telling people some things, you can help people have this feeling of genuine discovery. And it can actually be, even though it's, a video game made by humans, it can be real discovery. There can be things that you weren't meant to find that are optional, that don't represent a universal experience, that are sort of your own. And hearing about people playing the game in, say, unusual orders, or getting to certain points without finding certain items, or getting through large chunks of the game before someone says, oh, did you know you can XYZ? And they're like, wait, what? Optional things, like there's a secret room that you can go into to maybe change the appearance of your character. Like, that's something that people maybe found, maybe didn't.
I didn't find that. I didn't find that until my Game Plus playthrough. I was like, what? I could have done this the whole time.
That was actually the first secret room that I found.
Really?
Yeah, that was the first thing I found. So
bro, I had no concept. I had no idea that's even in the game. That's amazing.
I think I actually texted Stadnik and I said, Stadnik, I just found something that I had no idea that was what that was.
Oh my God. Okay. Well, now I have to restart the game because I have to go find that. Yeah.
Everything you think you know is a lie.
Yeah.
I like that we had the full spectrum of that. Like, I found out almost immediately.
For real. Yeah. That's so cool.
That's wonderful, and that's the and scene that's the perfect
acting.
The perfect sort of representation of that is people finding things in different orders, and that was a real discovery. Like, you found a thing that you might not have. And that's precious and cool to me. And I've been playing to sort of keep my brain intact and have something to focus on aside from bug fixes and patches and stuff. And to unwind, I've been playing a game called The Legend of Zelda: Skyward Sword, which I had not played before, and it is a very interesting design contrast to a lot of the things that I've been thinking about for many years. And so it is interesting to look at that and be able to critically evaluate it, but also see how, game design has maybe evolved since then. Because I think we are seeing a little bit of a return to, the largest delta, the ears popping change from Skyward Sword to Breath of the Wild represents, I think, someone somewhere saying, hold on, I think people value being able to explore and discover and sort of forge their own path through a space, whether that's literally or sort of metaphorically discovering things as they go. And that's exciting. I love those kinds of games, and I have not yet started Elden Ring, but my understanding is that it is sort of, go forth, become murdered in a myriad ways. That sounds cool, right? Like, I'm excited to see more games like that.
Yeah. One of the surprises of the year was going from Elden Ring to Tunic and feeling almost the same sense of wonder, which is amazing. Like, I did not expect that, right? Going from this huge AAA experience where it is literally like you see that you can go do that, like to Tunic, like they share a sense of discovery. I'm actually curious what you think about Elden Ring when you started up.
Yeah, hit us
yeah.
up in the chat.
Yeah,
Let us know how you're doing.
just DM us. Yeah.
Um,
If you need any guides or anything, let us
yeah,
know. So
if I want to go back a little bit, like the reception to the game was quite good. I wrote the review here for Game Informer, and I gave it a 9.75. But I was by no means the highest score. How was seeing that reception? How was that feeling of seeing people come in with all of those like fantastically high reviews? Did you ever think about having a Cory Barlog type video where you openly wept? What was the feeling there?
I am not familiar with that particular reference.
Oh, please
But
go check it out when you're away. Go Google that because it is so worth
Yeah,
watching.
the
Okay.
God of War documentary.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, sure. I did. So my partner was next to me, and her job was to act as a buffer that day. To be like, oh, I'll pick out the good bits and maybe let you know what people think. And she was sitting with me when I pressed the button on the call with the team that was like, go live. Okay, just like sit back. And I had forgotten that the sort of like embargo point was the same moment. And she just started saying things. And it was an emotional moment for sure. It was, just, I don't know. We don't need to belabor the point, but it was 7 years of thinking that you had made something that might not have connected with people at all, and then realizing that it came through was a moment that I will not soon forget.
that's amazing. Well, and you say, right, it's been 7 years. I think the first time I remember seeing it was, I think it was the Microsoft E3 showing and being instantly like taken with it, right? And that was a while ago, or I can't remember what year it was, right? But what that had to have been an exhilarating moment for you because the online reception was great, but also now the clock is ticking. Now people are like, where is the game? What's going on with it? Is the game canceled? Like that kind of stuff. What kind of pressure did that put on you? And did it add any extra challenge? Obviously you have to announce you're working on a game eventually, right? But like, what are the pitfalls with that?
For sure. So at no point did I think, 7 years, that seems about right. Until obviously the very end when it's like, yeah, I guess it couldn't really have happened any faster than this. But even knowing that, I don't think anything about this project could have really changed because I started the game as like, I'm going to make this game on my laptop. Let's go. And I mean, like I had no real connections to the broader indie game community at all. And so it sort of demanded the path that this game took of I'm sharing it, here I'm working on the game, here's some vines, to I'm starting to talk to people about getting advice and, hey, maybe you saw the vines. This is the thing that I'm working on. What should I do? Hey, I talked to such and such. They said I should talk to you about, getting help with business or audio or music. And then, talking to Adam and Becca Saltzman of Finji long before the game was being published by Finji, just asking them for advice on, how should I go about getting funding, that sort of thing. And then getting to the point where, oh, we're partnering with Microsoft. That's huge. This is obviously the next, we have to talk about this. This is exciting. We need to, the audience that this game now has is order of magnitude more. Like every step was organic. It's an extremely small team, and so it took a long time. And from I think that you're right. That point on, the Microsoft, I think it's 2018 is the sort of like the big E3 press conference at the Microsoft Theater. That was the point where you started seeing, wait, is this game canceled? Like a year later. And I think that probably speaks to the fact that it is we were blessed by having such a worldwide stage for a game so small, right? And so yeah, it's like, yes, it's only been a year because we spent 3 months making the trailer, and then that's really like that's the sort of like the game wasn't being worked on for that time because we were doing this thing, and now we're getting back to it. But yeah, all of that contributed to a feling of I have made a terrible mistake a lot of the time. Was like why did I allow people to perceive me? But in the end, the whole process, from the people who are working on it from the very start to Finji to Microsoft to today has been just a parade of wonderful people and good fortune, I think.
Does that feeling continue on? Because the game is done, and it's done very well, and everyone's very excited, and it's probably one of my favorite games of my adult life. Yeah, I so appreciate, like, you wouldn't be so excited if you had heard the amount of times that I cursed you while playing it.
By name too. It was a
Yeah.
lot. Yeah.
Thank you. Nonetheless.
Does that feeling continue now, as I assume you will continue to make games? I hope you will. Of that pressure of now being one of those indie names that you've got your Eric Barone, you've got now your Andrew Shouldice.
Oh goodness.
You're welcome. If I could put that pressure on you.
I don't know if I'm ready for that. Yeah, that's tricky. I've thought, while working on the game, occasionally I would think, would I make I'm gonna have to make another video game at some point. And intentionally sort of backburnered all of those ideas. Focus on what you're focused on now. Here are some exciting thoughts, of things that you could make. But now I think about those, and it's, yeah, I guess there is some amount of pressure. Like, here's a game. Do you need to have even more elaborate secrets? Like, I don't know. Part of me just wants to make a card game or something, something. I mean, just as an example of something that's different and maybe. I mean, everybody always says this after they finish a large project. I would like to make something smaller, and maybe I'll make something more personal. I don't know. And not more personal as in less soul poured into it, but more like a tiny project with lower expectations of myself, maybe.
Right. Going back to your partnership with Microsoft, this game is on Game Pass. Obviously Game Pass is the new hotness, right? Everything seems to be going there. What has that partnership led to for you? What is the impact? Have you seen an impact on maybe download numbers for Tunic at this point, like that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so that's the what I was mentioning before is that I still feel like this is a small game in a sense, like not necessarily our count wise, but it's a small team. It's about this small fox. It's about feeling small in this world, and it still feels a little bit like the little prototypes I was showing off on Vine. And so the audience now that the game has is pretty profound for a game this size, and that is, I think, what I'm most grateful for from the partnership with Microsoft. It's the fact that I can tell a lot of people, hey, do secrets interest you? You already have this thing. Go play this game for free. Like, you hop on it and give it a try. And I think maybe not as many people. Well, definitely not as many people would be trying it out if it wasn't for this opportunity. So it feels cool. I'm very proud.
I'm gonna throw this out, and Alex may have to edit this out. What's the Far Shore?
Goodness me, the Far Shore. What is the Far Shore? Do you know? Tell me what you think you know about the Far Shore.
I don't know anything, sir. You made it so that no one could know anything.
But clearly you know of it.
Clearly. I hope my hopes and dreams are such that I hope the Far Shore is in my future. I'll say that. I hope there is something that I can look forward to and looking out onto it in its beauty.
Interesting. Okay. Well, if people who have not played the game, that is tantalizing.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I was gonna ask on a similar note if, with everything you've seen of, the community figuring things out, can can you say like have people found everything or figured out everything that you know of, or are there still it's kind of like the Far Shore, there's still a bunch of things where you're just like, no one's found this yet, or no one's interpreted this correctly just yet.
If we are introducing the idea of interpretations into what counts as secret, then I feel like any creative work could be a bottomless well, right, of potential interpretations. I've been very impressed with what the community has been able to figure out about, the, like I mentioned, the secret glyph language and the subsequent sort of double secrets associated with that. And there are some other secrets that folks have found, and I've seen people mention, but are perhaps not something that you would encounter every day, like maybe some sort of Easter eggs that involve doing certain things in certain ways, that are a little treat for folks who have been maybe following the game for a long time. And then there are also certain secrets that are perhaps just for me, if that makes sense.
Interesting.
Things that are in there that I don't think would mean anything to anybody but a very small number of folks. So I don't know. It would be doing a disservice to anybody who loves secrets to tell them, "Yep, you've did it. You've bled this entire thing of joy. It is nothing but an empty husk."
Yeah.
So I'll never say that. But if you are still playing the game, chances are there's some more stuff there for you to find.
For sure. And I do, if you're comfortable, you can tell me no, right? But I do want to get into maybe a bit of spoiler territory, but on a thematic sense, not necessarily like a moment to moment gameplay or story sense, if that's okay for you. And if not, we can say no and I can edit it out. But I guess I'll just throw it out there. Because we've all beaten the game here, at least gotten the first ending. The game evolves into, we go from like mystery, like, the influences we've talked about, right, to it feels like to me a more poignant maybe critique of technology, of industry, right, and how it can corrupt. Like, what was important for you in this story to hit on, right? Which it seemed like a clean slate, right? It's like you're this fox who makes wicks everywhere, but I feel like commentary towards the end of it gets a little bit more poignant, and you have the story fleshes out a bit more.
Yeah, the emotional trajectory that I would hope people have is largely guided by the feeling of discovery and uncovering things, and always feeling like there's just one more layer to peel back. And peeling back layers is something that traditionally in many pieces of media has presented power, and power will be abused, and that's the trope of oh, but we dug too deep is, I think, very powerful, and has a lot of connections to the real world. We don't need to get like too philosophical about it, but also just narratively, it is very interesting to me, even though it's been explored a lot. I like that space and what it means, and I like leaving blanks as well.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I got to the space that kind of encounters this, and like I was sort of outraged at what was going on. Like I felt a very visceral feeling as to like what was happening around me and what was going on, which I was not really expecting up until that point. It had been sort of like, oh, how lovely the trees and the forest and the
Right.
the blowing wind, and then I saw what was going on. I'm like, how dare you?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, there are a couple things in this game where when I first showed it to the team, they're like, "You are mean. You are a bad person."
Yeah. Oh, unfortunately, we're reaching close to the end of our time here. Marcus, do you have any final questions we want to ask Andrew?
No, I'm good, man. I'm still very much making my way through the game. Like I said, I have hit an ending. I still have quite a lot of things to figure out, including as of last night, stumbling upon another one of those. Wait, I could have been doing this the whole time kind of moments. Uh, so I'm excited to dive back in. But yeah, like to echo what Jill said, it's one of my favorite games of the year, easily. So I guess thanks for that.
Thank you. That is high praise, especially from people whose your job is to be critical of video games. So that
Right.
means a lot.
You have done something truly special here. I want to end this on, this has been a long journey for you. You kind of talked about what's next, but like, do you have a thing you are single most proud of with Tunic in its development in the game?
It is a good and complex question. Before launch, I would answer it by saying, there's some visual effects that I think are pretty neat, or there's a flickering candle flame that is performant and pleasant to look at. But now I think the thing that is most valuable to me is shipping, like it being done, and that being, I up until last month, I was not a game developer in the sense that I wanted to be. Do you know? Does that make sense? It's like imagine having, written a single article for 7 years, but no one's ever actually read it on the website. But now, it's done there. I can take a nap, and that feels good.
And you should take, go on a vacation, go discover some things for yourself. So Andrew Shouldice, an absolute pleasure. Please, if you haven't played Tunic yet, please go do it. I hope our talk has inspired y'all to check it out. It's on Game Pass, like we said. Yeah, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you a lot. So
thank you so much. This was a lot of fun.
Cool. Be sure to go follow. You're at Dicey on Twitter, right?
Yeah, I don't spend a whole lot of time there, but yeah, I'm there, and you can sign up for the mailing list at tunicgame.com and follow Finjico on Twitter and join the Discord, hang out with some folks, get some oblique hints.
Welcome back to the Game Informer Show. We're jumping right in because we got a full cast here. Thank you again to Andrew Shouldice for joining us. Now let's get nutty, right? We're in the second topic of the show, and I brought on some new faces here. He is the host of All Things Nintendo. He has been along for the ride with the Halo series, review series that we're doing. Brian Shea, hello, sir. How are you?
Hey, Alex. How are you? That is the more important question.
Fine. Everything's fine. It's never been more fine. And then, of course, the Jacket, the Duck Master, King of Anime. What other nicknames have I given you before?
I'll take them all. They're all relevant.
They are, apparently, even though you reject all of them. See, that's what good leaders do, right? Like the Anime King, he doesn't want the crown. He just watches the anime, Dan Tack, hello.
I'll take them. Whatever you want to throw at me, let's go,
Yeah.
Let's do it.
And then, of course, my friends, Jill, Marcus, still with me today. So, Dan, you've been busy.
Hi.
You've been a busy man.
You're not lying.
You're on your 8th playthrough of Elden Ring at this point?
We're on 6. I had to stop. I had to take a break for some Final Fantasy 13 playthrough.
Okay.
The less said about that, the better. But
didn't Wes say that that's one of his favorite Final Fantasy games?
Sounds about right.
Wes has some highly objectionable opinions about some games.
Yes.
All right.
Yes, he does, and we
I'm
love
gonna
him
fight
anyway.
Wes one day.
I think we learned that about his Mario.
Yep.
When you just say best Mario ever, and it's just like something way out of left field. It's like, what? That's not even like the top 10 Mario game. It's like, come on, dude.
Right. Yeah. Oh, we love him
Wait,
anyway.
Dan, what's the best Mario game?
World.
Thank you. Okay,
is.
we agree.
Mhm. It's not even a thing. It is World.
Jill seemed to disagree, though.
Do you have a take?
Welcome to
64.
Mario Cast. Welcome to
Okay.
Mario Cast.
I
Wait,
feel
what
like
did Jill say? What did Jill say?
64.
It's a fair answer.
I feel like it's a better answer than 3D World.
Well, it's certainly a
Yeah.
better answer than Wes's.
3D World is very
He's
good.
not
I will
he's not
defend
here to
3D
defend
World.
himself.
I'm just totally hijacking your podcast now, Alex.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's okay.
Wes might just be an agent of chaos. We don't know.
He
for sure.
definitely
Yes.
is. That man puts ice cubes in his chocolate milk. Okay, he cannot be stopped.
I heard that while I was on vacation, and I dramatically spit out my nice vacation drink.
Yeah, your warmer chocolate milk because you don't but richer chocolate milk.
I was like,
You
this
don't put
man
ice cream.
drinks like a sad milkshake, basically. Like, this is like my parents, we can't afford milkshakes, so I put ice in milk.
Oh my goodness. Anyways, we're off the rails, which is what you love.
We
But
got
Dan,
really far before it happened.
Yeah.
outside of FF13 and Elden Ring, you got your hands on a certain cover story game that we're going to talk about right now. Evil Dead, the game.
That is, in fact, correct. We have a big cover story and a bunch of features and videos and even a rapid fire with Bruce Campbell that might even be up right now while you listen to this. Go check it out.
Yeah.
That's got to be one of the most fun things that we've gotten to do in terms of like, come on, that's great, and that's going to be a different kind of hilarity than the game. You know, the game is obviously very different, but having the Evil Dead icons back for this kind of thing was very cool. And that's not just Bruce, right? Almost all the original voice actors are involved in the project across the board.
But when I heard you got to do a rapid fire interview with Bruce Campbell, I got extremely jealous because that is super cool.
Yeah, Alex Van Aken led the charge on that one, and might I say he did a great job. And Bruce is unhinged and just says whatever comes to his mind, and I can't wait for y'all to see it.
Did you get any Spider-Man questions in?
Oh yeah, are you kidding me?
Oh baby, I can't wait to watch it.
Yeah, that's a very special interview. There's not a whole lot about the game in there.
You know, it's Bruce being Bruce. But speaking of the game, Tack, you got to play a couple of hours of hands-on time.
Yeah, a couple of hours. I got to play a few rounds as Survivor and a few rounds as the Demon. So for those of you who don't know, this is a 4v1 asymmetric experience. So you've probably seen games like this before, although this one's trying to be very different in terms of how it does things. But at the core, you know, we've seen Evolve, DBD, and a host of other 4v1s. For some reason, it's always 4v1, right? That seems to be the go-to. So you've got basically people surviving and then the monster. This is, you know, you've probably heard of Dead by Daylight, right? So first things first, to get the comparison in here, because a lot of people are going to be making that comparison immediately. It's not like that, except in terms of 4v1 player versus monster. But like, you are not a defenseless person at all in this game. This game is about combat and about shooting on the Survivor side. And on the Demon side, it's a lot more kind of like overarching nemesis rather than hands-on. You're sort of creating this environment for them to screw up in rather than being all the time like just visceral and in their face in a unit, which you can be, but it requires possession. It's a lot more of a task to play the killer role in this game than it is in DBD. It's a whole much more to do, and I think that's going to be pretty daunting for some players to get into who haven't played this kind of thing before. There's a lot more micromanagement of resources and units because you're going into actual like AI controlled units. They're like just like a zombie, for instance, a Deadite. You're going to go into that, and then you'll have all of its abilities. Then you can pop out of that and then pop into a player or pop into a car or put a trap on a tree. You're all across the board playing as the Demon.
A tree.
And whereas the Survivor is like, there is so much, you know, there's tons of shooting, tons of melee damage, you know, chainsaw, obviously, with Ash, you know, and finishing moves even. So you're in there shredding Deadites, constantly. And of different, you know, quality, including like the boss monsters that the enemy player will summon. And it's an enormous map compared to any of these other games. Basically, you're going to need a car to get around. So there's car driving. And then, of course, there's like some weird, you know, there's battle royale elements in this. Obviously not with the player base fighting each other, but like the closing circle at the end of the game and the loot phase, for lack of a better term. Like the beginning of the game when you're running around trying to find different qualities of loot. Very Fortnite-y, if you will.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, that's not the only game that does it, but it's something you can use as a reference point.
Right.
And driving around. I don't know any of those games that you're just you get in a car and drive around with, because it's a big map, man. It's a big map, huge. Like you'll never get to the objectives without doing that. And of course, that tips off the demon where you are. Okay. So that'll help them find you, because it can be challenging for the demon to even find the survivors by design in this game early on, because they've got to loot up first, right? You got to go get your guns and your axes and your chainsaws and everything before you start rolling around the map doing the objectives. So basically, you have to find a couple of pieces as the survivors, and then you go and do 2 like horde mode segments, and then after that, you go and kill the big boss, and that's a match. And obviously, the demon is in your way, trying to stop you from doing any of that. Depending on how the game pace goes, the demon might not see you for a while, because the map is so freaking big. So unless you give yourself away, the demon might just be like sort of cultivating their powers until they eventually stumble upon you.
Okay. Interesting. And what triggers game over for like the demon, right? Because I'm assuming they can take a pretty hefty amount of damage, right?
I mean, the demon is technically incorporeal and invincible. You're possessing units. The units can die very easily if the survivors are any good. Like you're going to have boss units, but if the survivors pile on them with their weapons, they're not going to last long, even on your strongest units. You're constantly popping in and out of bodies, becoming a boss, becoming an elite, becoming a regular Deadite, becoming a player. You can possess a player once the fear level is high enough.
Saw that, yeah.
And the timing on this is all really important. And my experience with other asymmetrical games of this nature really helped me try to like know when to take my moments. Like when they're already really busy, I'm going to try to like scare them and then separate them and then kill them. It's going to be, I think it's going to be a real challenge for the demon role to be good at this game.
Okay.
The survivors have a ton of tools, and they're very powerful and can absolutely just rip Deadites apart, which is the intent here, right? To blow them up. Just like Ash in the movies, right? Just shredding them in half.
Oh, yeah.
And this is like Mortal Kombat style finishing moves left and right, man. You're just sawing people in half. It's wild.
Ooh, there we go. You've said as the demon, you've talked about fear levels of the survivors, right? What is that system?
So the fear system is between traps and passing through them. There's like this weird... You have one ability on every demon you play. They all have this shared between all demons. You can basically shoot through them when you're incorporeal, and it'll scare them. They'll get a jump scare in their screen, and that ups their fear meter.
Really?
Yeah, really. So there's a ton of so that actually raises their fear meter. There's a ton of ways to build the fear meter. It just keeps going up. They have to go to fires to remove it. So they have to create little makeshift fires in the map to reduce their fear levels. When their fear level is high, they are open to possession. Okay. And they are a little bit more unstable, so basically you don't shoot as well. Your aim's gonna be a little off, and the screen kind of gets like kind of messy, You're gonna
poop your pants, like
very, very, very subtle changes.
Okay.
On top of the big one, which is the player, the demon can then possess you, which is a major factor in a critical fight.
Mm-hmm. Do you get an alert that the demon has possessed someone, or can you be like walking around pretending someone's okay, and then they finally just like
it does not last long. So if the demon isn't immediately an aggressor after they possess somebody, then you're failed, because it goes away pretty quick.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, well then I know you in D by Dead by Daylight usually play the monster or the hunter. Forgive my terminology here.
It's killer in that game. Yeah, I do.
Killer, yeah. Is this appealing to you as a killer, or are you more interested in what the survivors are doing?
I'm more interested to see how this thing will do as an item out there, but with this very different system. Again, the survivors are very powerful, which is different than most of the other hide and seek style horror games of this nature. Mm-hmm. They are definitely not afraid of the demon. They're ready to go toe to toe and slice them up. I am interested to see how the match style resonates with players once it's released.
Mm-hmm. So, and it's just one map at the start?
Yep. It's a really, really big map. It's going to be different every time, though, obviously, because you're going to start different places, and items are going to spawn different places, and the objectives are going to spawn different places. All that stuff's going to be different. It's very big, very, very big map to move around in.
Okay. Cool. And I saw in our gameplay too, like there's car possession and stuff like that. There's definitely some interesting stuff in this. I'm curious, did you like your time playing as the survivors then?
It's very different. I mean, it's different, very different on both sides. Mm-hmm. Definitely the glory kills were a lot of fun. I liked trying them out on different characters because everybody's got their own specialized weapons. Mm-hmm. Ash loves to use his chainsaw, and the other characters taken from the series use their own personalized fare. And they've got a little bit of spark to them. You know, they talk to each other, they banter while they're crushing deadites. I'm gonna keep saying zombies because that's what they are, but you know,
freakers.
Yeah, whatever you want to call them, man.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, and so then I know is there some sort of progression with the survivors match to match? Like how do those systems works?
So there's both in-game progression per match and then meta progression outside of the match for both Demon and Survivor. So you're going to level up in-game and those go away after every match. And you're going to level up outside a game and those don't go away on every match by character. So you have macro progression and you can build out differently in each game depending on the game state. So like let's say if I go in as a demon and I feel like playing a really big possession spec demon this game instead of relying on my minions to get the job done. So I'm going to put all my points, my experience points are going to go into possession. I'll be better at that. Same with Survivor. You can put points in health, you know, all these different various things. Those go away. But you'll have macro abilities on the X, like maybe one of Ash's abilities, like, you know, you start the game with a chainsaw or something instead of having to find one. You start with one, which is great. You know, little perks like that. Every character has their own specialties, like AoE heals, invincibility, all kinds of weird things they can trigger depending on the scenario.
And is it a pool where you have to play as a specific character in order to get points to level them up, or is it a pool where it's like, here are the points, you can spend them on whichever character you want?
Yep, that's how it works. Okay. You accumulate account points, you can put them wherever you like.
Cool. Okay. Well, like you said, we know we're getting like a lot of the original voice actors and stuff like that. Do you think this will be something that Evil Dead fans and Army of Darkness fans are gonna clamor for? Well,
yeah. I mean, the game could not even be very good, and they would still do that, right? Because that is how, you know, being a entrenched horror fan myself, you know, I know how these fandoms get. So I'm sure they're very happy just to have a canonical entry that's going to bring more Evil Dead into the world, right?
Right.
Regardless of whether or not they enjoy the gameplay.
Yeah.
So yeah, that'll be interesting to see, especially since they're like sort of infusing this with what is essentially new lore that you'll be able to discover as you play.
Interesting. And are they doing it through like audio logs or like in the matches and stuff?
Yeah, so audio logs, correct. Okay. There are unlockable audio logs which expand upon the media from the films and the TV show.
Cool. Okay. Cool. I don't know. Do you guys have any questions or thoughts?
I was going to ask about the because I think there's a single player component, right? Can you talk about what that's all about?
Sure. Okay, and let's be very honest with ourselves here. There are single player missions in this game, a very small handful of them, and you can also play against bots. But it would be extremely disingenuous for me to sit here and tell anybody to pick up this game based on any of those. This is fundamentally a PvP experience, and I know those things are nice little add-ons and they're cool and fun, but they're small snacks for a bigger meal. And if you're not there for that meal, then you probably shouldn't go out to eat.
This isn't like, hey, I love Evil. I'm gonna play this single player story adventure because I hate people.
I mean, there will be a couple people out there that do that, but I'd wager there'll be those for the super hardcore Deadites. They will enjoy that and think that's worthy of the price tag. But I can't see somebody like, no, don't play this game. I can't, based on my experience. Obviously, I'm not reviewing the game or anything like that.
Yeah.
But based on what I saw, no, those are not selling points of the game. If you're not there for the other, they're a nice little add-on, nice little cute little thing to offer some neat little perks. But you shouldn't just get the game for that. That's not going to satisfy.
And to be clear, it's literally just like PvE version of PvP is the single player, right?
There are single player like story missions.
Okay,
there's a small handful, and they're, you're killing some Deadites with a chainsaw and completing some goals that you may recognize from the movies, right. Little vignettes. And then yes, the other one is just playing against bots. Essentially, you can fill the game out as you like if you don't want to play against people.
Okay, cool. No, that all sounds good. Do you, as a Dead by Daylight player, are you gonna give this a shot?
They're not super comparable, as I said, and I think they're inevitably going to be compared because of the format alone. Those are comparable aspects, absolutely. But pretty much everything about them, other than the 4v1 aspect, is different in major ways. There's no escaping here. This is not a game about escaping a killer. This is a game about beating the crap out of that killer and killing the demon, the dark ones with massive power and just steamrolling through a map and figuring out a strategy to do that against the demon. So,
okay,
not really comparable. I don't even know if it's hard to say whether the DVD fan base is going to enjoy this at all. This might be for a completely different crew. This game has so many varied elements in it. This is for people who like shooting, who like melee, who like PvE melee, especially driving around with a team, figuring out how to work with that team. You don't do any of that in DBD half the time unless you're with a group of friends, right? You just you're silent victims to the big guy. There's very, very different kind of gameplay.
It's weird. That's what my Catholic teacher used to tell me. Catholic school teacher. Thank you.
That's good.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
and a closing circle at the end of the game. All this stuff is completely way out of scope. So I know people are going to be like, "Oh, it's just like DBD," or "This is DBD copy," or it's not that. Whether or not you like it, I can't tell you that, but it's not that.
Yeah. Well, and I guess I apologize. I haven't even asked the question of, did you like, the driving mechanics, the melee mechanics, the shooting mechanics? Do they feel good in your?
I absolutely like the melee. Cutting up the Deadites was really great.
Okay.
The shooting, I think takes a back seat to it.
Okay.
But obviously, I only get to play a few games. But the melee was really, you really feel it when you're, you just take a Deadite's head off with a shovel.
Yeah.
That is a big, it's wow, this is just, if you've seen the Evil Dead movies, they are really gory. All right. At first they were seriously gory, and then they went comedically gory as the series went on. But that's been you will not be disappointed with the brutality of those finishes. They're gruesome. And in line with the franchise. The shooting, I didn't like the shooting as much. It's really important, keeping a Deadite away from you with a boomstick is good stuff. Demon play was challenging, absolutely, to get into. It's going to take a lot more work to play the killer in this game.
Okay, interesting, cool. Well, I hope everything coalesces and into the game people are hoping for. This is not it, folks, for Evil Dead coverage. We have so much more stuff on the site and the YouTube page right now that you can check out. I guess before I sign off on that, Tack, do you have any parting thoughts before we move on?
Yeah, I like to see horror franchises, at least, gameplay aside, they did a really great job at tapping into franchise elements and being true to them here. I know a lot of people would just be like, grab that IP and let's turn that into something that makes money.
Right.
But here you could tell they really do have reverence for the source material. So I'll say that much.
Cool. Awesome. Well, looking forward to it. And like I said, go check out all of our coverage, GameInformer.com/EvilDead, YouTube.com/Game Informer. We have the gameplay videos up now. The Bruce video will be the last of the video coverage, but Tack, I think you still have some stuff. Or
there might be a couple things going up. You can stop on by.
Yeah,
see what happens.
Yeah. Pour yourself a nice tall glass of chocolate milk with no ice in it. We're moving on to the playlist here.
Wait.
Speak your piece.
Nobody puts ice in chocolate milk.
Oh, I know one. I know someone does.
A madman.
Don't do that.
Yeah,
do that.
You just don't. It's I feel like wine, chocolate milk, off limits. You don't put ice in them. Period.
Yeah, you don't. There's no reason to do that.
Yeah, I used to ask when I worked as a server, people didn't put ice in wine, as well as why people didn't drink wine with straws. As a lifelong non-drinker, I never had to subscribe to the practices. And
have you ever seen somebody drink wine with a straw?
Well, no, and that's why I wanted to know why. I was like, "What's the rule? Who decided
that is not done?"
You see a lot of stuff in college, Tack. Is all I'm going to say. So I went to Rome when I was in college, and my friends think I'm pretentious now because I had Italian food outside of Olive Garden, but it is what it is. But now my mom, to spite me, she'll put ice in her wine because I'm the first time I saw her do it, I almost flipped the table. And so now she just does it. She clings the glass and she's like, "Oh, look what I'm drinking." And I'm like, well,
I mean, I don't have to go to Rome to know that you don't do that. I mean, come on. What is
yeah. Anyways, the playlist. We got some games. Jill, let's start with you. You have one that you have not stopped singing about.
I
in
am
quite
so
some time.
excited.
Yeah.
MythForce! It is such a catchy song, and it's been stuck in my head. I saw this game at GDC called MythForce, and it's being made by Beamdog, who people might know from sort of the enhanced editions of Baldur's Gate. And they are making a new IP, and I got to see it at GDC. It was really a lot of fun, and they showed me this intro animated. It's all sort of inspired by 80s Saturday morning cartoons. So you've got like He-Man and Thundercats and just all of that sort of genre. And they nailed it so spectacularly. And normally when I'm like playing things for demos and I try to like not give away that I'm like super into something just so I can like keep all of my thoughts together and make sure that I can be neutral and I'm critical about what I'm watching. But I have literally been singing this song for weeks, and I couldn't sing it because it wasn't revealed yet. So anytime I sang the song, I plugged in different words for the song instead of saying MythForce.
Yeah.
So that's been a lot of fun. The game itself is like, the attitude is fun, the gameplay is fun. I'm having a lot of fun times with it, and I'm very excited about being able to play it. It is coming out next week on the 20th
wow.
in
Oh.
Epic Early Access.
Okay. So soon.
So very soon.
So I have seen the intro trailer, right? Like you sent to us. I've heard the song. It is quite catchy. What is the actual moment to moment like in this game? Like what are players actually doing?
This is an action roguelite. Basically you can play it as single player, but it is sort of first in the developer's mind a multiplayer experience. So it's you and the team getting together. You can pick between one of 4 heroes. You have the sort of knight figure, hunter, rogue, and mage. Sort of it's very, very D&D-esque to me. Even though it's got this like lovely 80s feel, and the graphics of the game are very hand-drawn, painterly even in some places, and it's just such fun to experience. You team up. It's a generally procedurally generated map of a dungeon, and you go from room to room, killing skeletons that come at you, or goblins, or little mushroom men, trying to get through to the final boss, who for this first beginning season is a kind of bestial, hairy creature, who's so over the top and larger than life, and like very 80s bad guys, like, haha, I am going to defeat you, sort of.
So far, you've just described Dan.
Yeah.
I know.
Imagine Dan.
I am into this. I am so into what I'm hearing right now.
It's so
You're in it. It sounds like.
Yeah. I don't know how they got your image, but
I'm calling them immediately. This is
outrage. But yeah, and it's just about, I mean, the developers joked with me about this is going to be a game that you play in between Elden Ring. It's not a game that you're going to get like obsessed with and you have to play it every second of the day. It's going to be one of those things you hang out with friends and you're talking about life and killing some skull creatures and looting things up. And what I really enjoyed about it too, that I wasn't expecting, is that I chose to play as Hawkins, who was the hunter, because the bow character is always my favorite. And as we went through room by room, you could pick up any weapon that the bad guys dropped. You could find treasure, and at various places there are ways to give up the gold that you found throughout, because I'm a big looter, and get boons or get better weapons. So you're constantly changing. Even though I started as the ranged player, I picked up a sword that was like a legendary sword, so I immediately switched to close range, and I was like wailing on people. And then I found a spell book, and I switched over to being the raining fire down upon all of my enemies, and that was a lot of fun. So you're never the same person really twice. Running through each thing is going to be totally different. You do level up as you play, and that progression stays with you, which is nice. So if you've leveled up, and everybody dies and you start over again and you have to go through the whole level again to get to the boss. But you're going to be stronger and start out with the better stats that you got when you leveled up. I unlocked a kind of trinket that stays with me that gives me more stamina from the beginning so that I can, be shooting more often. Each character has specific skills, and the hunter's skills are things like shooting a bow and arrow, or shooting an arrow that like creates a void that sucks in all of the bad guys and then explodes, or going invisible. And each individual character will have that. So you can switch between characters and between, like, when you're done with a run. So you're leveling up all different things. So even though you're running through the same thing, you're going to have a different experience each time. And it is a fun kind of, they're not taking themselves too seriously, but they do have this sort of love and reverence for what they are inspired by. So they're not making fun, but it is also very much a wink. And even people like me who did not grow up in the 80s I felt nostalgic, and it was just this lovely feeling and a lot of fun, and I can't wait to jump into it with friends and experience that together and have some silly stories that come out of it.
For sure. Well, and you said something interesting, and I may have misheard, right? But you said the boss at the end of season 1. Is there a season structure to this, or is that what like each level is called?
No, it does seem to be, from what I have heard, that the idea is to continuously kind of keep this game going depending on like how much interest there is. So at the start, it's going to be I forget exactly what it's called, but it's like the beasts area.
Okay.
So that's I assume it'll be like basically a map change and a change with the bad guys and a change with the overall. There is a storyline. I don't know any real thing about what's going on with the storyline. I sort of imagine from that intro that there are overarching bad guys that have goals and plans and you're trying to get to them, but their plan, as far as I understand it, is to continuously change things up.
Okay. Cool. Well, that sounds exciting. This game has come completely out of left field for me.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to hopefully get hands on with it soon. And then you said it's coming to early access, but is it PC only, or are they going to release it other places?
I have not heard anything except for Epic exclusive early access.
Okay. Cool. Okay. Cool. Y'all have any questions, Marcus? I know this sounds up your alley.
Yeah. I think I only wonder how like smooth the combat feels, because like watching the trailer, like it looked fine and whatever, but you never know. I was wondering like, oh, is it a little slow, or and also keeping in mind it's an early access for however long it's going to be. But I was wondering how either responsive or smooth it felt, because it gives me vibes a little bit, especially the co-op element of like the like Warhammer Vermintide or whatever. Like
yeah, the developers themselves actually referenced that as well.
Oh, okay.
As far as as like what I played, I had a fun time and didn't notice it being slow and just constantly like skeletons are coming at me and I'm shooting them, and I accidentally almost immediately killed my teammates by blowing up a flower that I wasn't supposed to. So it is a structure of like you're in a room, everyone comes at you, you kill all of them, you go to the next room, everyone comes at you. So as far as like that structure, maybe like if you're the kind of person who gets fed up with people like me who have to check every single corner for like maybe there's gold over here, maybe there's treasure over here. But as far as I could tell, the gameplay itself is very fun.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because this is right up my alley as a giant dork for like 80s and 90s cartoons. Like that theme song, hearing that, it's like, yeah, I just want to sit down and eat a bowl of cereal and watch this fake show.
Shay, you're in a similar boat, right?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a lot of fun. I'm again, it was totally not on my radar because it wasn't announced until very recently.
Right.
But it's it sounds like something I would enjoy. Hopefully there's some sort of reference to Ninja Turtles because that was my jam back in the day. But yeah, I'll totally check this out when it's available.
Okay. I've heard Tax say he's only going to check it out if the Noid's in it. Can we confirm if the Noid is in it or not?
I about lost my effing S when I saw this stuff. Okay, I was like, wait, what? I am the 80s. I'm going into this game
You
now.
say that a lot at work.
I do. I do.
It's a real
Ask-
Machine
ask
Gun Kelly
Marcus.
moment.
I message Marcus like 3 times a day. I'm like, hey man, remember like when we were in the 80s and we were going to like Pizza Hut? This happens all the time. Like I just send him like random messages at random times of the day. He's
Whatever
like,
happened to
Dan,
Pizza Hut?
go back to your rocking chair and leave me alone.
Dan, it is 4 a.m. Why are you calling me about Pizza Hut in the bar?
Like,
Have
"Hey,
you
remember
watched
those-
Arthur yet? If we're going to talk about old shows,
No, because Arthur's new. That's the thing. Imagine the perspective where you think Arthur is a new show. Okay?
the 25-year-old show.
Yeah.
It's a scary place to be, but I'm glad we have it. So I'm looking forward to this one for sure. I'm really glad to hear what you said about the gameplay, Joe, because it looked kind of rough in the trailer. I mean, I love the aesthetic of it, like that, and the track and everything. It all feels really. I'm like, wow, this is a cartoon that I have seen and I'm playing. That is good. So I'm really hoping that it syncs up with that. Can't wait to get my hands on with it.
Yeah. We're just going to be chilling. It's going to be like a Saturday night. We're going to be craving that Wendy's like bar or whatever they used to have. You know, we're
The
just gonna be
Wendy's
slaying
Super
people.
Bar.
The Super Bar. That's what it
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
$2.99, Alex. All you can eat. All right.
We're going to hang out at
3 different
Shoney's.
stations. Did you know at the end of the Wendy's Super Bar era, this was the early mid 90s when it was finally going away. They actually had increased the Super Bar to the point where it not only had the 3 core stations, but also a dessert and a pizza station.
What?
And it was like-
Wendy's?
Yeah, dude. Yeah. And they had to get rid of it because it wasn't cost effective. This thing, you
Yep.
could have a straight up buffet experience at your Wendy's.
Dave
Was it
Thomas was
good?
losing his mind.
Yeah,
when
it
he
was
saw
great.
the-
That's actually what
great.
put Dave Thomas in the grave.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Was
I
the
don't know
Su-
about that.
He had a little too much of the Super Bar and it just caught up
Yeah,
with him.
saw
Super
the,
Bowl was
how much money he was
amazing.
losing.
It was amazing. And you could get it all for like $3. I think even it was. God, the 80s were so good, you guys. I
Oh,
wanna go
remember,
back-
like in that same breath, like remember the Pizza Hut buffet? That was where it was at.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love the pizza.
They
Hut
had those
buffet.
in the 2000s too. At least I had that a little bit. You know?
Yeah, I mean, you can barely find the KFC buffets. You really got to hunt for those. But when you
Oh,
find
man.
one,
They're
I've
out there. You
never
got. I
seen
think
the
the
KFC
last time
buffet.
the KFC buffet, I had one on the way to Kansas one time. But we don't have to get into this story. This is a podcast about video games.
That's a story for another podcast.
Yeah.
I'm gonna submit a user email and a community that story now. I need to hear more.
You probably would enjoy this story, actually. But
Okay. All right. Jill, any parting thoughts before we move on to the next game on MythForce?
Yeah, required reading for everyone is not reading. Go to the animated intro trailer, and I double dog dare you to not get that stuck in your head. If you cannot get that stuck in your head, I'll send your prize. Who knows what it will
Oh,
be.
okay. All right.
Meanwhile, I will intentionally not be watching it because I don't want a song
I'm
in my
gonna
head.
pop up behind you and like play it.
You have your boombox like in his backyard or his front yard.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, I can dig it. Well, look for that next week. I'm sure we're excited about it. So hopefully we'll do some more content about it in the future. Can't say what, but I'm excited to check it out. In the doldrums of April, we need something like this, I think. So, Brian Shea,
Yeah.
what have you been playing these days?
So I didn't have a whole lot going on this past weekend, and I was like, you know what? I've been not having a ton of time for gaming, like just not related to work. So I'm like, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to devote my entire Saturday and most of my Sunday to playing some games. And I was originally thinking I'm going to land back in Elden Ring, but I was like, what if I checked out some other games first?
Okay.
So I checked out a few smaller games. So I checked out Far Changing Tides. Had a lot of fun with that for the few hours that I put into that. I checked out Olija. I think I'm saying that correctly.
Alija.
Olija.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That game's good.
Yeah.
Olija. But
Yeah.
yeah, very fun, like kind of 2D action platformer. And then I checked out Infernax, which I was actually not the biggest fan of. I didn't last super long in that. It's almost like a Castlevania homage, like old school Castlevania. And then I ultimately landed on MLB The Show 22, which I used to play that game every year. I think the last one that I put any significant amount of time into was 19. And then, I just 20, the season was kind of postponed due to COVID for a while. And then didn't get into last year's. And then this year I was like, it's on Game Pass. I'm going to check it out because it's on Xbox now. And
such a wild statement. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. And it's so weird to have like fire up my Xbox and have like presented by Sony Interactive Entertainment, PlayStation Studios. And I'm like, what? But yeah, so I am having a blast with that. It's a really solid baseball game. And it's nice because so many sports franchises right now kind of suck. Like Madden has been in a downward trend for a while. NBA 2K, don't even get me started on a $70 game and the monetization that they do and all the ads and everything. It's that's a free-to-play game with a $70 price tag.
Right.
And then despite how good the graphics and how good the gameplay is, like that there's so much BS around that game. And then NHL, I'm not the biggest hockey fan, but I understand like Kim has been fairly underwhelmed by that series for a while now. But it's nice that there is a major franchise that is continually pretty good. And I think Andrew Reiner just posted his review of it, which I very much agree with. I think that it's a very strong entry in the series. I've been playing March to October mode, which is kind of like a story-driven season long, or I guess franchise mode type of mode where
directed by Spike Lee, maybe?
It's not directed by Spike.
Not this time.
It's not story mode in the sense that you're doing like cutscenes, but like the analysts and the commentators will have like contextual lines that they say. Like when I started out, of course I chose the Orioles because that's my team, but they also happen to be the worst team in baseball. So they ran down like how hopeless the Orioles are this year and like how hopeless they've been for like the past several years. And it kind of was like rubbing salt in the wound because I know they're bad. I know they've been bad for a long time. But they were like, yeah, like the of the 5 teams in the AL East, 4 of them were vying for contention last year, and then 3 of them made the playoffs. The Orioles have lost 100 games in 3 of the last 4 seasons and have no chance. I'm just like, oh my God, I get it. Like they're terrible. But like it's been fun because like I've been working and in case you don't know what March to October mode is, beyond what I just said, it doesn't make you play every game. Instead, it simulates through the entire season and then it stops at pivotal moments where it's like, all right, you're down by 1 run late in the game against a division rival, like mount a rally and come back. And if you can win the game, it'll give you a momentum boost. So then when the simulation continues, you'll have momentum on your side. And like, you'll see like, all right, this game, you probably would have otherwise lost in the simulation, but you'll see like your momentum meter will send like, if you have good momentum, it's fire. If you have bad momentum, it's ice. So like if you blow the opportunity, you get ice on your meter. And if you do well, it's fire. And like that will actually come down and influence the outcomes of certain games. So if I win all of the opportunities that I'm given, like, and it's probably 30 or so pivotal moments throughout the course of a season that you're just dumped into. And sometimes it's like, all right, a rookie is making their debut, play the entire game as this player, and if you do well, it'll make it so that they have a attribute boost for the rest of the season, or like their development trait will go from like a C potential to a B potential, or otherwise it's just like momentum boosts, or you can do different things within the games. Like sometimes it's like preserve a lead, sometimes it's come back from being down big, and
probably happens a lot with that team.
Yes, and based on like how you perform, though, it influences the simulation, and based on how difficult the challenge is, that gives you more momentum if you do it well. So, like if you're down by 3 runs and you come into the game in the 7th inning and you do mount a comeback and you actually win that game, you'll get a bigger momentum boost than if you come in and just like preserve a lead. So it's a lot of fun in that regard. Right now, believe it or not, I'm in the American League Championship Series with the Orioles. So I am I'm 1 series away from making it to the World Series with baseball's worst team. So I'm having a good time with that.
That little intro.
Yeah, maybe they'll. Right. But like it's cool because like halfway through the season they give you kind of like a grade for your first half, and then like there's also opportunities like you can shop certain players around. You can like for trades, you can say like what positions you need to address the most, so like your front office. So like based on what you set there, like you'll get trade opportunities that you can also get. So like I traded like 3 prospects for a really good right fielder and added him to my lineup, and he's come through big for me and over the course of the season. So I'm doing that because I wanted to kind of get my ability back because it's been 2 years since I've played this game.
Right.
And then I'm going to jump into Road to the Show, which is the single player focused career mode, where you just play as the player that you create and you just do every situation that they're in, whether it's in the field or at bat. So like most of the time I'll play a shortstop, and because that's what I played when I was playing baseball, like way back in the day. And so I'll do that, and it'll just give me every fielding opportunity, like a ball that's hit to shortstop, or every time I'm up to bat, and it makes the games just fly by. And it's so nice to just kind of control your player. When you do your at bat, you move on to the next appearance. Like unless you're on base, then you have to do the base running, which kind of is boring. But you can adjust how many situations you want to see per game to like kind of also set the pace that you play through these seasons, which is great.
Cool. Reiner talked about last week a multiplayer mode or like a co-op mode. Have you given that a shot yet?
No, I'm very much alone.
Okay. Oh. Hey man, do you need a hug?
No, please do not.
We can go to Wendy's Superbar together. It'd be great.
If there's a Wendy's Super Bar, I am in. But otherwise,
believe me, I looked. I'm not even kidding. I checked to see if there was like one remaining. Like, they keep that one of a thing around.
Right, like
No,
the
like
last Blockbuster. Yeah.
I was gonna take a field trip out there. I was gonna be like, I don't care where it was. I was gonna go.
You can start like a
Blockbuster was my
change.org petition to bring them back.
There you go. Yeah.
Blockbuster was my first job I ever had.
Really?
Yeah.
And then you're like,
That's the end of the story.
I'm gonna burn it to the ground.
yeah. You were like, they came into your store and like, hey, we're Netflix. Do you want to buy us? And they're like,
It's funny.
You're like, no, I don't want that.
So Netflix was this was like 2003 or 4 that I was working there. So like Netflix was just starting to get like its like established. I forget when Netflix was established or like founded.
2004, man.
That seems
That seems
early,
really
but-
old for. But
It was
maybe.
founded in 1997, according to Wikipedia.
Bro, they languished for that long. Okay, yeah, that's nuts.
But anyway, people would come in, they'd be so mad about like the late fee policy. And people were like, oh my God, I've heard about this Netflix thing. I'm going to check that out so I don't have to come back to this store. Like they were so, because
Wait, they said that to spite you?
Yeah, because they would
Yeah.
tell us that because they hated us so much. And like we saw where that got Blockbuster.
Yeah.
But anyway, like Blockbuster had such hubris about that situation, by the way. And
Oh, yeah.
but I remember I went home one day and I told my dad about Netflix, and I was like, you should like look into investing in this because I'm seeing a lot of people saying they're going to check out Netflix. And he was like, nah, that's never going to catch on. And whoops.
You reversed insider trading it, and it still didn't happen for your dad.
I was an outsider trader.
You were outsider trading, yeah. I don't think they can get you for that one, but it doesn't matter. So, okay, cool. Well,
But yeah, that's what I've been playing.
cool. Yeah, go check out our review for MLB. Do you know what Reiner gave it?
I believe it was an 8.5.
Okay,
Yes.
that's a good score. All right, so go check that out. It's on Game Pass on Switch. You can play it wherever. Marcus, finish us off here. What have you been playing?
Well, Alex, I am back from a week-long vacation, which is very refreshing, and it gave me
You look
time to
well
run
rested.
through. Thank you.
Yeah.
I took care of myself. I got a massage and stuff.
Ooh, there we go.
Went to Busch Gardens, rode roller coasters. I did all kinds of fun stuff, including playing games. And one of them was to go through real quick. I finished Horizon Forbidden West finally
Wow.
after putting in a even 70 hours into that game.
Wow.
Had a fun time with that. I played more Tunic and Elden Ring. I've not finished both. I'm at the end of Tunic, but I have made a discovery that is now halted, or like we talked about earlier in our segment before, that I need to go back with a fine-tooth comb to get some more stuff. But in terms of new stuff, one game I've been really digging is Norco, which our review for that just went up on the site, written by the awesome Jason Guisao.
Yeah.
I gave that game 9.25.
Yeah, he was high on it.
Yeah.
Very high on it, and I'm pretty high on it too so far. I haven't finished it yet. I am in the middle of the third act, but if you're not familiar with it, it is a point-and-click adventure set in New Orleans. I believe the developer, who name has escaped me, but I know this is their first game. They described it as a Southern Gothic tale where you play as a young woman returning to her hometown. She is estranged from her mother, and the reason she comes back is that her mom died of cancer, and your brother is missing. And it turns out the town that you live in is kind of being run by a seemingly sinister oil corporation.
Those don't exist.
Yeah, I know, right? They usually are.
We're sorry. Sorry.
It's the first thing they say to you when you step back foot in your town. But the idea of the game is that you're trying to solve the mystery of what your mom was working on, because your mom's a researcher and she stumbled upon something in the town, like something potentially alien or mystical in the nature. You're not sure, but the corporation has an interest in it, and you're pretty much trying to pick up where she left off. And what's cool about this game is one, it kind of blends like sci-fi elements. Like you have a robot buddy, there's like AIs everywhere, but it's still also like very grounded in that kind of like dirty, gritty, like swamp bayou South. And it's got a very surrealist slant to it in terms of the writing. And what I like about it is that it reminds me a lot of Kentucky Route Zero, but maybe I'm gonna get some hate for this, but like I liked Kentucky Route Zero, but I didn't love it. And one of the reasons was because I thought the writing was maybe a little too abstract at times, where I was more lost than like I'd be like, what is happening right now? What is this weird imagery? Like I can tell there's some symbolism here, but it is going over my head. Whereas I think this game has some of the writing is certainly like, does like, oh, this is really profound and flowery, but it doesn't go overboard with it in a way where like I know exactly what is happening right now, basically. So I think it walks that line better. And you can make fun of me and say like, oh, he's just an idiot that didn't get Kentucky Route Zero, and you're probably correct. But I like that this is, I guess, a little bit more understandable and accessible. I like also the how authentic the writing feels, where all the characters, like, because nobody's voiced, it's all text, but they feel like they're Southerners and like from that region without getting too over the top with it. Like I feel like this game could have easily been like, I don't know, some guy was really a big fan of Gambit from X-Men and just really dialed that up to 11 of like, hey, I'm Cajun. I'm going to tell you every 2 seconds. So we're like, oh yeah, everyone feels like all the characters feel distinct in how they're written, but just, again, not going overboard with it. And the story, it's, I'm not going to spoil anything, and it's hard to talk about it without giving out specifics, but it goes some places. Like, this game is wild. Like I said, I'm in the middle of Act 3, but the things that have unfolded so far, like, have either made me laugh out loud because of how silly and funny it is, or just like maybe raise an eyebrow, like, whoa, okay, I didn't know this is where we're going now. There's been a lot of twists and turns that have me hooked to see what's going to happen at the end of it. And in terms of the point and click nature of it, I think the puzzle solving so far has been enjoyable. It's not, at least so far what I'm seeing, it's not like overly complicated. Some of them are pretty basic, like, oh, I need an item and I'm going to use it on a thing, or I'm doing like, you talk to someone, he gives you a cue like, hey, you should go here, find this alternate path. What I like about it is that you're not, it does a good job of making sure you're not clicking all over the place to try to find that one like hidden pixel, because a lot of especially the older versions of that are like, I feel like I'm just like one click away from like getting past this wall I've been at for like an hour. In fact, what they do a good job of letting you know where you can go, because there's a mini map that tells you exactly how many doorways and paths are in an area. So even if you're looking at the screen, you see like, illustration wise, like, it seems like I could go anywhere, but then you look down, it's like, oh, actually there's only like 2 ways in and out of this room. So that'll save me some time. And you can just click that if you want to.
Yeah.
So like some good quality of life stuff there. And what also is cool is that there's a really clever way that they log all your information via this thing called a mind map. And it's basically a web of all the people you've met, and like it's information that gets updated as you talk to people. So it reminds me a little bit of like Outer Wilds, the little map or the log thing that was on the ship that kind of updated your information as you collected it and gives you like lines connecting relationships and threads. It's a really smart and clear way to kind of check in and be like, okay, this is what I know about this person. This is how they relate to this person or this area that I've been to. So again, I'm not lost at all. And there's never been a time where I don't know where to go or who I should be talking to or who a person is. They do a good job of not cluttering it up either with too much information. They kind of just give you exactly what you need. And yeah, like I said, the music's phenomenal so far. It's got, again, kind of like the sort of bluesy Louisiana soundtrack, but again, with like a little bit of a sci-fi tinge to it too. And there's also combat, surprisingly. There is like straight up JRPG-esque combat. It's not super prevalent, at least in the the amount that I've played. It pops up often enough to where it feels more like a nice break than, oh, we're doing too much of this. And the way it works is that, you get a party of characters throughout the game that evolve. Some people come in and leave or stay with you for a while. And, they all have one attack, and all the attacks are kind of like active timing based. So we're like, oh, there'll be a sequence of like nodes that, blink in a certain way and you got to match it. And that's your attack. Or, oh, there's, a reticle that's going to zoom in. You got to click it at the right time. This is a PC only game. So you're playing with a mouse. And, it's fine. I know Jay was a little bit down on it in his review. I'm probably a little higher on it. I think because it doesn't happen that often, it's not like amazing, but I think to me, it feels like engaging enough where, again, it feels a little bit more like this is kind of a fun break from just, reading and moving objects around or whatever.
Right.
So I don't have a problem with it. I've never failed it either. It hasn't really been difficult at all. So I have no idea what
bragging over here.
Somebody's a pro gamer.
I'm really good at games, guys. I don't know if you know that. So failure is hard for me, but I want to finish it. Like I said, I don't know how long the game is. I think I've heard that it's around like 5 or 6 hours or so.
Okay.
I guess assuming you don't get stuck on something maybe. But I'm really digging it so far. It's maybe one of my favorite little surprises this year because it wasn't really on my radar at all until I saw it was coming to Game Pass. And then I've seen it kind of like just through like online chatter and like, our colleagues slowly start to talk it up about like, oh, this game's really good, or there's something here. This might be one of the best narratives of the year so far.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to see that. Like I said, I want to see where this goes because it is. I really wish I could talk about some specific things that happen because it is so wild. But yeah.
Do you ever read tweets where it like sells you instantly? That's what Jay did when he posted his review, and I have to read it on air for anyone who wants to know. So it was an honor to review Robotic Geo's wonderfully frightening Narco. In a year somehow already chock full of genre-defining games, Norco bursts forth with one of the best narratives I've ever experienced. It's currently my game of the year. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a tweet. And I'm instantly that with Marcus's analysis is I have to check it out, right? We had Elden Ring this year. We had Pokemon Legends Arceus this year. Are you kidding me? That's tax game of the year. Right?
It's going to be the three-way dance now. It's going to be Elden Ring, Tunic, and now this. It sounds like you two and I did Jay are going to fight.
I did like it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good.
You played Legends Arceus, Tech?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, maybe we'll talk about that one of these days on All Things Nintendo.
I have played quite a bit of it.
Yeah. Okay. Shay's like, I needed something to talk about this week, so Tack, you're coming on.
Hey, best Pokemon in 20 years. Now, what does that mean? That can mean a lot of things, but you can take that a lot of ways.
Well, break it down one of these days.
One of these days. Dope. Okay. Cool.
But yeah, check out Norco and it's on Game Pass PC. So
just for PC, right? No Xbox?
Yeah, it's only on PC. It's not on console at all.
Okay.
But it's for the best point and click. And I'm not even a huge point and click guy. I don't mind the genre, but I'm very selective with it, and I have to be in a certain mood for them. But yeah, so far I've been very happy with what I've played.
Do you know? Is it on Steam Deck?
That I do not know.
Okay, that's okay.
I can look that up.
Okay. It's a smaller game, so I didn't know either way because I was like, that would be another great Steam Deck game.
Man, that's going to be the new "is this on Switch?" question now,
right? Oh, 100%. Yeah, especially as they
Control F'd Deck on Norco's Steam page and got 0 out of 0.
Okay.
Things. I don't know. Results.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, go check out Jay's review if you want to learn more. But that's a great look at that game. Tack, do you have any? I know we talked about Evil Dead, but do you have any games you want to talk about today, or should we go into community emails?
Well, unlike Marcus, I wasn't, spending my last week in the vineyards with Grey Poupon or anything like that. But I still like to pick up Hunt Showdown now and then for a quick play. I'll keep it real quick.
Okay.
But that game is really unique in the space. It's it's so different in that game, like shooting. It feels really, we have so many games where we have laser rifles and weapons that just like, obliterate opponents with 1,000 different shots, like as they are. So using like 1890s old timey weapons where you have one shot is kind of an interesting and very intense and more intimate experience, I think. That game overall is just so weird and interesting. Like a 12-person battle royale, essentially, with teams, but with PvE objectives that you're fighting over. So you're like, are we going to let that other team engage the boss and then kill them? Are we going to wait for another team to engage the team that's killing the boss and then kill the winner of that duel? What are we going to do? Let's figure it out, gang. Let's talk about it, and let's hide in some weird occult Wild West with, a lever action rifle. And you can feel it creak in the when you're moving. I don't know. There's something about it. It's just It's one of those games that I always go back to. Mm-hmm. Anyway, there you go.
There you go. I'm happy I asked because I feel like we joke about it, but like you actually like play it a decent amount.
Yeah, a decent amount. I go on and off. Like I play it for a bunch, and then I'll something will come up, and I won't play it for weeks, but then I'll get back into it.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. What's your next Elden Ring build that you're gonna do?
Next Elden Ring build is going to be Frost and Bleed at the same time.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That sounds dope.
I mean, I've already done 5 builds, so this is 6.
I saw the Dragon build.
Dragon build's a lot of fun. That one's great.
Yeah. Also, MVP of the year is the Bleed build, man. Shout out to Bleed. That got me
I haven't done a Bleed build yet. I know how powerful they are, though, man.
You are gonna speed run it. Like you literally IGN's gonna have a headline like Game Informer editor done in 30 seconds.
I think the speed runs at like 9 minutes or something right now, maybe even quicker.
I think it's 7. Yeah, I think it's something like that. So cool. Well, y'all had more interesting games than I did, so I'm just gonna say we're gonna go to community email and take a quick break. So we'll be right back. Welcome back to the GI Show. We're 2/3 of the way through. I don't know. This is a long one, folks. But it's a good one. And if we keep the energy that we had today, I think it's big. So let's jump into it. Housekeeping, you know it, you love it, or you skip it. Either way, thank you. This is the part where we kind of let you know where things are GI wise, what videos to look at, articles, like that kind of stuff. But we kick it off here with a little podcast review section. This is where we read your reviews, where that you kindly leave us over on Apple Podcasts. It helps us immensely, and we appreciate you for doing it. Not all of them have to be 5 stars. Trust me, we know the weeks that aren't 5 stars. But give us your thoughts, your feedback. It helps a ton. So this one, 5 stars, comes from Judonkadonk and says, "Legacy continued." Judonkadonk says, "I've been listening since the Helgeson days, and each iteration has brought something different to the show, honoring the importance of gaming while highlighting the humanity of each host and guest that has been preserved, including the current duo. Alex and Alex bring the swag with their joy and excitement, talking about gaming and exhibiting friendliness with whoever is in the discussion. They love to banter and bring laughter while striving to ensure the GI legacy lives on under their stewardship." Wow. I'm gonna get misty-eyed in here. This is that's a hell of a review. Highlighting the humanity. Wasn't expecting that. That touched me. That's good. So yeah. So we're just here. We're chilling. We're talking about games. I don't know. Just having a good time. So but seriously, thank you for that review. It helps us a ton. It helps us the algorithm and boosts our engagement. So we appreciate y'all for that. So be sure to leave a review there. Weekly streams. We're not sure what we're doing on Thursday yet, but 9 times out of 10 we stream on Thursdays. Usually the hottest games.
We're streaming.
Oh, we streaming?
We can't reveal. The better way to phrase that, Alex, is you say we can't reveal to you what we're streaming in on Thursday instead of saying we don't know what we're streaming. See, you gotta mix it up a little bit. You know, you gotta
We
be
have
like,
big things coming on Thursday.
Exactly.
Like you won't even believe your freaking minds.
Wow.
Like it's gonna go crazy.
it's a surprise, and you'll have to be there to catch all the action.
Thursday.
Only at twitch.tv/GameInformer. There you go. See? Boom.
There you go.
Hey,
I have a
Nice,
lot
streaming.
to learn, Dan Tack. All right, and then here, let's have you hype this next one up, Tack. All right, ready? What are we doing Friday?
Friday actually is going to be very special this week. Obviously, we're going to try to find another place to slot replay in and make sure that we get that done. And it's still going to carry on the time slot. But this Friday, we begin a very special adventure. Elden Wing. It's exactly what it sounds like, folks. We're going to be eating hot wings.
It's
We
back,
are-
baby.
We are partnering up. Yes, we are sponsored by Wingstop for this particular stream experience, in which we were going to eat increasingly hotter wings as Marcus tries to play and survive through the deadly lands between.
Oh,
Will Marcus survive? Will we all die of fire wings? Who knows? You'll have to tune in on Friday to find out live. It's going to be hot. It's going to be spicy. The hottest wings and even spicier commentary from the Game Informer team. So be there. It's going to be awesome.
can't
I like
wait.
how far this joke has gone.
This is a reality.
I love it. Yeah. I'm very excited for it. I haven't seen you guys haven't done wings in quite some time, so I'm very excited. Notable YouTube videos of the week. Basically all Evil Dead. We have a lot of great stuff on there, but don't let that overshadow the other NGTs because Wes put together an awesome little look at Hello Neighbor 2 beta, and then we did a special exclusive NGT with the folks over at Spiders for Steel Rising, the action RPG set in the French Revolution that looks bonkers. And they did a whole NGT on inspiration behind it, the bosses that you'll fight, that kind of stuff. So it was a good time. Shout out to Tack for doing a great job with the interview on that. You don't hear his voice, but he's asking the questions as he always does.
There was a ghost in the background there. It was
Yeah. You have to look really closely. I put like an outline of Tack somewhere in the video that you have to go find. So go check those out. It's a good week for that. And then we'll also have the Halo review series up on Friday, right, Shay? Yeah. Buddy.
my favorite.
It can only go up from here. That's what I'm saying, right? We've been reviewing each
I think
episode.
you might be optimistic.
I am. That's my my toxic trait is optimism.
That's a good one.
Yeah. No, we've been reviewing each episode of the Halo series as it comes out, just to add some little flair and some fun to your podcast feed. So it sounds like most of y'all are maybe not liking the show, but you are liking the discussions. So we're going to keep those up, and then we're going to branch it out into other stuff too. And hopefully we'll bring it into games here too. Maybe do a book club or something like that.
Yeah, are you guys saying that you're a better Halo show than the Halo show?
Whoa.
I didn't say it.
Who's
You know?
to say, really?
I would never say that. You know,
I think we should do an episode of Pizza Hut.
just review Pizza Hut.
No. Be at Pizza Hut while you review the Halo episode.
Yes.
You
Greg
gotta get
Robinson's
you gotta get
there.
sponsorship for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Those
do it.
poor waiters and waitresses. That'd be a
Bring
tough
them in.
time.
Bring them
Yeah,
in.
They come by, we get their input on the Halo show.
Right.
Do it. What's wrong with that?
I think it could be, we could have some fun with that. Alrighty. And then I can't tell if I'm gonna sneeze or not, so hold on. Bear with me here. But social media plugs. You can go follow me at Studnik76 over on Twitter, STUDNIK76. We got Dan Tack at Dan Tack. Pretty simple there.
I like that one.
Yes, that's a good one. Jill Grote is Finn Ruin. Marcus Stewart is Marcus_Stewart7.
Yeah, no underscore.
No underscore? Did I goof that?
You
Is it
can-
just Marcus Stewart? I'm thinking of Reiner. Reiner has the underscore.
Yep.
Okay. So it's just Marcus Stewart 7.
Yep.
Right? Okay. Apologize for that. Brian Shea is Brian P. Shea.
That
Right.
I am.
Yeah, you are. And then you can go follow Andrew Shouldice from earlier in the episode at Dicey. He's not super active on Twitter, like he said, but I'm sure he appreciates seeing the follower count go up. So finally, highlight the podcast that we have here. Video Gameography. Marcus, you're the host of that lovely show now, correct?
Yes, sir. We got BioShock wrapped up last week with Infinite, and as we announced, we are jumping into the world of Supergiant Games. So we're changing it up,
Ooh.
where we're going to do a developer profile instead of a series. So we're talking about all 4 of their games: Bastion, Transistor, Pyre, and Hades, beginning
Ooh.
next week.
Okay.
That should be
Very
fun.
excited for that.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's gonna be
absolutely.
great. Oh, cool. And then Shay, you run All Things Nintendo. Dare I say one of the best Nintendo podcasts in the industry. What do you got
thank you.
cooking up? Yeah.
Well, I guess tomorrow I'm going to have a very special guest from the Game Informer side of things on to talk about Nintendo Switch Sports.
Oh, okay. Hell yeah.
And then I will say, keep your eyes open over the next few weeks. We will have some fun shows and some very, very, very cool guests.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I can't wait. It's gonna be so fun. And then finally, Andrew Reiner coming to you every week from Panel to Podcast. Beautiful comic book podcast that he does every Tuesday, I believe. Talks about comic book movies, the actual books, video games, the whole thing. It's a great time. You should definitely check it out. So I think we have kept the house. I think it's ours now. I don't know how housekeeping
Is that enough content for the house? Because that's a lot, man.
Bro, we've gone from single level, right? We're in the mansion, right?
Man, Corey
GI
in the
content
house.
mansion. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
It's
that's
his
one
house.
full house right
Yeah.
there. Yep.
Let's get to one of the best damn parts of the show, and that is listener emails. This is the part of the show where y'all write in, send in your fears, dreams, nightmares, whole thing. No night terrors though, please.
Yeah.
I don't want to
Get outta
send the
there.
nightmares in. Those are
The nightmares was pretty great. I think
That
that's
was-
one of my favorite community episodes that we've had.
That went places.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it did.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and it was a lot of fun. So, you can send us questions, comments, concerns. I'm sure you have a lot of concerns at podcast@GameInformer.com, or you can send it over on Discord, which you get into by subscribing for 1 month to our Twitch channel. Which, how else are you going to watch Elden Ring, right? You got to be subbed up. You got to get those emotes, right? You know what I'm saying? You got to get in the Discord, right? Chop it up with the homies in there. You know, life is good. But then you can go over to Game Informer Show, put your question in. I usually ask for it either Tuesday or Wednesday. So we look forward to having you. So this is a good group here. We got a good couple of questions. Starting with Green Captain over on Discord. And the captain says, I'm a huge Evil Dead fan, and though I had some fun with the Friday the 13th game, it was nothing that I felt I wanted to play regularly. Are there any hooks in Evil Dead that will keep players around for a while? Does any of the single player content seem worthwhile? Dan Tack, that one is for you.
Well, certainly I think the single player content is worthwhile, but we discussed this actually earlier in the show. I would not consider that a selling point. If you're buying, I would not make that. Again, I can only evaluate what I played for a few hours. To me, it is fundamentally a multiplayer 4v1 experience. There's some nice little snacks on the side, some bonuses, but it's not going to be. I don't think that's the hook. Now, for longevity, obviously you have like all these talent trees on the characters that you can level up and augment. So they're trying to get the the hooks in that way by letting you permanently increase your characters at the account level. And of course, you can also unlock cosmetics and skins. And I have no doubt, and I don't think they've talked about this yet, but like the model will be more characters cycling in, more maps, maybe more. There's the model for this kind of game is pretty well established across the board. So there will inevitably be DLC drops that expand the content and the universe.
Right.
But I would not say, from my perspective, let's be very clear here. The single player content is not the draw. It's a bonus.
For sure. Cool. Okay. Unless any of you have any other answers from your vast hands-on time with Evil Dead, I think we can move on. But I thought that'd be a quick and easy one to hit. This next one comes from an Attack Corgi over on Discord. Shout out to Attack Corgi. They say, where does the GI cast fall when it comes to games copying one another? Art imitates art, but when would a patent be warranted, like Shadow of War's Nemesis system? Is it okay as long as the copycat is ... better? ? And they list some examples such as Fortnite copying PUBG's Battle Royale system and copying Among Us's gameplay. Pretty much everyone copying Breath of the Wild's glider mechanic. I love Breath of the Wild. Did not create the glider. I'm just gonna throw that out there. Glider's been around for some time before that, but
I mean, the glider was in a Zelda game before that with Skyward Sword.
Right. Yeah.
And you know what? I bet I can find a glider before that too. And that is really more my take on this is just let people do stuff, because otherwise it's gonna get bogged down and everyone's gonna be rushing to like patent every single mechanic and everything ever. And if you let that happen, this world would be a lot less interesting. So I'd rather have the copycats out there rather than just try to restrict everything and lock it down by saying like, we own this mechanic, we own this thing, you can't use it. Because it's all just going to be a race it's going to be a race for everybody to like, go make that thing so we can just lock it all down. It's all ours, you know?
Right. Yeah. I think there's layers to it too, because there are some times that feel a little bit nefarious, like the Fortnite example, like the Among Us thing. We're like, that's just straight up the ship. Like, there's one thing to just, you know, take the idea and the mode and put it in like your own thing, but like something like that, we were like, you guys, like, you didn't even make your own like world. Basically, you just took the ship layout and maybe tweaked it a little bit, and then didn't. You know, not crediting Inner Sloth or really mentioning him in any way. That's one of those times where you're like, I feel like there's better ways to do that, like an homage. And maybe there are times that people hide behind that word of like, no, it's an homage, or I was inspired by it.
No, let's be very clear. Fortnite saw the success of PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds and said, hey, we could do that exact same game with our own mechanics, and then stop making their PvE content and decided to just be a battle royale because it was so popular.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, there are great games that do copy and then build upon established elements. Like the Soulsborne genre is a great example of that. Like, I think From Software games, Dan, you could probably attest this, are the best games in that genre. But there are several games that have taken that formula and created very good experiences out of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
like,
and then there it's a spectrum. It's really kind of a case by case, because I was at the talk at GDC by the Wordle creator, who part of the reason why he walked away from Wordle and he sold it to the New York Times was because he was getting into that place where his creation, which he had envisioned as a sort of fun, go out and play, no strings attached, I'm not adding any advertisers to it, was starting to get stolen, the idea, from other people. And then they were putting advertisements in it. And that made him very uncomfortable because that's not what he wanted his creation to be. And that's sort of part of why he walked away. So like there is some element of, copycatting can be a terrible practice that is not something that you want to condone in any way. But on the other hand, you do have these amazing games that take and like Tunic is obviously, we just talked about how it is so inspired by early Zeldas and has some elements of the Soulsborne games, and it takes that and makes it its own, and it's not like shy about saying that it is definitely inspired by these things and takes certain mechanics. So it is a very case by case thing. It's hard to say like every copycat is terrible, because that is something, like Tack said, like that moves the industry along and gives us iterations and gives us better versions of really cool things.
Yeah, I wouldn't want anything patented. I remember finding out that the Nemesis system was patented, because I remember wondering for years, like, how has that not been built upon yet? Like, this should have been the next big thing, and realizing like, oh, that's why, and feeling super bummed out by that. I wish that wasn't the case, but yeah, like Jill said, there's spectrums. I think the worst end of that is probably in the mobile space. You know, that's kind of like what dominates, like the App Store and stuff. Of like, you know, those are like a lot of those games that, like, if something gets really big, they're like straight up ripoffs, right? It's not even like we were inspired by this. It's like, no, you either rip assets from the original game, or just barely we changed it from red to blue and started charging money for it when maybe the original one was free.
I thought that we were going to get a ton of terrible games in the wake of LA Noir's success, because I thought we were going to start getting games that were going to try to replicate that same formula, but they weren't going to have the technology that Team Bondi could have access to, thanks to, you know, the assistance of Rockstar and Take-Two. And it's like, I'm glad that we didn't get like a giant onslaught of games that you have to like read their emotions and like their facial expressions and everything in order to make sure that you were trying to determine if they were telling the truth or lying. Because if you didn't have the technology behind that, it was going to be god awful, and not a lot of studios had access to that technology. So I'm glad I was wrong in that regard. But like, every time there's like a new novel exciting idea, it's always running a risk of like people are going to jump on that bandwagon and try to capitalize on that success.
Right.
Yeah, which
And
can
I
be cool or bad, right? If it's a
Right.
thing
Yeah.
like if it's like an inspiration or you like maybe inadvertently created a subgenre, then at least maybe for me, I'd be like, oh, that's awesome. Like I made Dark Souls and now everyone makes the Dark Souls. I'd be like, yeah, cool, I did a thing. But in the case of something like Wordle or even Threes when that came out, I remember Threes like 2048 and all that stuff is like, okay, I'd be like, okay, I guess, sure. I mean, I get that's how this works, but I'd be a little like, okay.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I think like a lot of things in life, it's on a spectrum, right? Like
Yeah.
taking the ping system from Apex, right, has made modern
Things
shooters better. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's something you can't even like make sure you credit them, right? Whenever you talk about the ping system, no, it starts with Apex, right? But like, you know, I like Borderlands is better for it, or Tiny Tina is better for it, right? You know what I mean? Like these games, Fortnite's probably better for it if I played Fortnite, but like, you know, some of these games are inherently better for it, and it's not like they copied and pasted full modes, right? It doesn't feel that way versus like what you said with the mobile space. So, and yeah, it would suck if like Nintendo patented that style of exploration and we never got a Tunic, right? You know, or like anything. I mean, you know, Miyazaki's talked about his inspiration from those Zelda games, right? Like, you know, it gets there's such a weird, murky legal thing if everyone starts patenting everything that it's just like Tack said, that would suck. So, you know, don't be unabashed and gross like Epic was with Fortnite, but like, you know, most art these days is raised on the backs of what came before it, and that's in everything, right? So as long as you're doing it in an honoring way, I guess, you know, still have your own ideas and stuff, right? But like, it doesn't bother me to my core because I think the alternative is a much more corporate dystopian than we want to get into, and I can't handle much more of that. I just can't, you know.
I actually patented the corporate dystopia, so nobody can do it anymore.
Wow. Okay. Thank you. You just put that. You were.
That's all it took. It turned out.
Wouldn't that be something?
You got to play their own game.
Yeah, like the sun comes out and the birds are singing. Now it's like, oh, that's all it took right there. I like it. All right. Last one. This comes from Pint Size Physics, who I don't believe I've read their name before. So welcome to the Discord and thank you for asking a question. Physics says, before I bought the Switch, my family had the Wii U with a large collection of games. It's where I played Breath of the Wild, Mario Kart 8, and countless other titles that debuted on the console. And I loved that. My question: why is the Wii U so universally despised despite delivering us some of the greatest games of all time, if not the GOAT itself? Brian Shea, host of All Things Nintendo, I want you to take this one first.
So I don't think the Wii U itself is despised. I think that it's a punchline more than it is a thing that's hated by a lot of people. And that's because Nintendo completely bungled the launch of that thing. The marketing all like led to confusion because even Jimmy Fallon, if you watch he used to have a video games week every single year, and he would have like every night on his show, he would have a different guest from video games, and they would come on and show what they're doing. And he had Reggie on to show off the Wii U. And I remember he threw it to break. And before he threw it to break, he's like, we're going to be right back with Reggie Fils-Aimé, president of Nintendo of America. He's going to show us the new controller for the Wii called the Wii U. And that is indicative of what that entire name did for that. Like, the name was terrible. They didn't show the console, and even when they did show the console, it looked like a Wii, and it wasn't a properly marketed piece of hardware. Everybody thought it was either just like an upgraded Wii or a new controller for the Wii that had like the touchscreen and everything. Nintendo did such a bad job telling us what exactly the Wii U was, and that's why it ultimately suffered. And I think that even then, it didn't have like a stellar launch lineup. If you look at the lineup itself, we never got an original Zelda game that was exclusive to the Wii U. We had Twilight Princess HD, we had Wind Waker HD, both GameCube games, or Wii, depending on when you played Twilight Princess or where you played Twilight Princess. Then we got Breath of the Wild, which, you know, most people played that on Switch. And it was such a stopgap, right? Like, everybody saw that and said, oh, this is awesome. I could play my Wii U games on the go. And then it's like, oh, no, wait. You have to be like within 15 feet of the console in order to play it.
Right.
And then it's like, oh, well, that kind of sucks. Like everybody was picturing, as soon as they saw that gamepad, they thought, oh, I'm going to have this thing on a plane and be playing my Wii U games like as I travel. And then like Nintendo had to come back and be like, actually, you have to be very close to the console.
Y'all just
And
have to wait
obviously
like 5 or 6 more years.
Yeah,
You know,
unless
Switch
you
will
live
be
in
out
a-
soon. Yeah.
If you lived in a studio apartment, it was great.
But the Switch, we see what it happens when like the Switch is the full step or the full measure that everybody wanted, whereas the Wii U was kind of like, I feel like the Wii U crawled so the Switch could run. And we see that both in the technology, but also in the games library. Look how many Wii U games have made the leap to Switch. And that's a testament to how great the Wii U library actually was. It's just, unfortunately, the sales were so low that not a ton of people played it. And now Nintendo's able to reap those benefits because now they have their most popular, highest selling console of all time in the Switch, which, in case you missed it, earlier this year, it topped the Wii in overall lifetime sales. The only system that beats out the Switch now is its DS, which I don't know if the Switch is ever going to reach the DS levels because the DS is only a couple million behind the PlayStation 2, which is wild. But you're seeing that the Switch is now reaping the benefits. The Switch is sold over 100 million 100 million units, and now they're bringing over all the Wii U games that they're like, oh, well, nobody played this on Wii U, so we might as well just port it over to Switch. And like I did an episode earlier this year, like talking about what Wii U games are even left to come over to the Switch because they've brought so many over. And it like, you know, Star Fox Zero is actually the one that I landed on because I think that this is another reason that the Wii U was actually a punchline for a lot of people was they relied too heavily on the gimmicks. I think they looked at what the Wii did and how popular that was for a time. And they're like, oh, we need to have like touchscreen and motion controls dictate the design of the games. And that's what they did with Star Fox Zero. And I think that I'm adamant that if you remove the motion controls and the second screen experience of Star Fox Zero, you have the best Star Fox game since Star Fox 64. And if they brought that over to Switch, removing those exact things, you would have a very good Star Fox game. And I think that that's what they're learning with the Switch is that not everything needs to have a gimmick. Sometimes a very well-designed game can just be a very well-designed game and people will love it. Look at Breath of the Wild. Originally, that was going to have the second screen, which I actually will concede that Zelda games benefit greatly from a second screen. Like either it's on 3DS or it's on Wii U. And that's because you can have your inventory or your map open at all times without having to go into like a pause screen. Other than that, though, Nintendo did a lot of shoehorning for its second screen on the Wii U and ultimately to its detriment. And that's why when we see all these games make the leap to Switch, we see better versions of those games.
Mm-hmm. Whew. Preach, Brian Shea. We love it.
That said, the Wii U has an amazing catalog, and I'm glad most of those games are making their way to Switch.
Now just bring us the damn HD Wind Waker, you know? That's like...
with Breath of the Wild exiting, a Breath of the Wild sequel exiting 2022, I would be very surprised if we don't get Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD brought over to Switch this holiday.
Oh, don't say
That's
things.
my prediction anyway.
Don't make a girl a promise you can't keep, Brian Shea.
No promises, just predictions.
Yeah. Promises, not predictions. I like that. I don't know. Anyone else want to chime in with their Wii U thoughts here?
Yeah, I
think Brian nailed it. I also don't think it's despise. I just think there was either indifference or mainly indifference. Right? Nobody really saw the benefits of it. Like from a, you know, I played Wii and I didn't get a Wii U, and I was like, you know, what is it? I knew what it was even, and I just didn't care. So.
Right.
Yeah, I worked at a GameStop for the first couple of years of the Wii U's life cycle, and I cannot tell you the number of times I've had to explain to people what that thing was because of what Brian said. People getting confused, like, is this a Wii add-on? And then asking, like, well, what's the hook? Like, because you know the Wii's motion controls were the hook, right? And it was very easy to explain to people, especially non-gamers, of like, hey, you know how to play tennis? What if you swung the controller like a racket? That's pretty cool. And like, well, what's this giant pad thing? And you're like, oh, you can. It shows the game there too, and you're like, but you can only, like Brian said, you can only go like 15 feet if even. Like if you turn a corner, you're pretty much screwed because it'll disconnect. Yeah. So you can't even use it the way you like. Yeah, you're probably not taking this thing to the toilet, but so it's like, and then a lot of games didn't even really use it in any real meaningful way outside of like maybe putting a map there, but outside
Mario Maker was probably the best example in my opinion because like you could actually use the stylus to build your levels.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. The only other game that comes to mind would be like Wonderful 101 maybe, but like Yeah, like I'm always sad that we never got the Metroid game that everybody wanted. Of like, oh, the map's gonna be on the screen. It's gonna be great. But yeah, like it just that gamepad just wasn't the selling point that the Wiimotes and the nunchucks were. Like I said, it was a necessary sort of evil because it got us to the Switch, but it was just really half baked and underutilized. So.
And I think if you look at the design of the hardware itself, the Switch is pretty sleek for what it is, and the Wii U the moment you picked it up, it felt like a toy.
Oh, yeah.
It didn't feel like a sleek piece of hardware.
Mm-hmm.
I've held one recently because I've had it out. Have you guys held the gamepad recently and you realize how bulky that thing? And you knew that at the time, but now you're so used to how sleek the Switch is. You hold it now and it feels like almost like a weird dollar store like fake Switch.
Yeah, I think for me, because I did buy the Wii U, the only game for me that made it sort of like it makes sense that it's on this thing was actually Fatal Frame. I want to say it was the Made in
the one
Blackwater.
that got re-released one.
Because it was literally like the point of the game, if you haven't played it, is you're fighting ghosts with a camera, and the camera is like one of these really old timey ones. So I'm like, I feel like I'm holding an old timey bulky camera and looking around and being scared that there are ghosts like around me. But besides that, it was like there's no reason for me to be playing this on this bulky thing. But besides the fact that they decided to make it that way. So
they never let us use two gamepads at the same time.
That was the thing they brought up early on in the life cycle. Eventually we're going to make it so you can buy a second gamepad. Then they realized, nobody's going to want to buy a second gamepad. It was smart of them to just move on from that.
Right. Interesting. Yeah, because when I think of hated consoles, I feel like the Virtual Boy comes to mind a lot quicker than like the Wii U, right? And I think there's an argument to be made. It's better to be hated than forgotten, right? I'm sure some movie has said that somewhere, but no, I think now that especially people what? No, nothing.
It's really close to Machiavelli. So
old timey weaponry and cameras. Yep. Right.
Yeah.
That's
Hunt Showdown. Yeah.
Yeah. I've always looked at the Wii U as a Nintendo's Dreamcast. Like, it is their weird little console that didn't really make much of an impact, but then it did for some people, and there's like a cult following around it that's like, no man, this was great.
Wait, that's the weird little. What about the Labo, man? It's a cardboard.
That's not a console.
What is it?
It's a concept and an idea.
It's
a
lifestyle.
It's a lifestyle. Yes.
Are there people with Labo houses, you think?
Oh, 100%. Someone bought like all the Labos that have been in storage.
It's a lifestyle.
It's a lifestyle.
I'm putting that in my Twitter profile. Lifestyle.
That needs to be like a TLC show of like following people that have dedicated their life to Labo and live in cardboard houses. They're like, no, this is actually the way to live. Yeah. you just don't get it.
We got it. Yeah. Oh, alrighty. Thank you so much for all the questions. These were great. Thank you for listening to another show. Let us know what you thought of the dev interview. That was something new for this iteration of the GI show. I talked about it at the beginning of the show, but once again, I want to highlight it. Alex isn't here right now because he's taking care of his dad. Dave Van Aken is a great man. And he's someone who I've gotten to meet and is fantastic. And, he needs as much positive energy as you can give. So, Alex has appreciated all the love, but continue to send it to him. We miss you. And Dave's going to get better, and it's going to be great. And we're looking forward to that. So be sure to like, share, and subscribe. We're excited to have Alex back next week. And I think that'll just about do it. So thanks for watching. Be good to one another, and we will see you next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye.